Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto parents neglect him for his siblings, the village hates him. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. In the village hidden in the leaves, on top of the Hokage monument, more specifically the Sandame's head sat a boy with shoulder-length golden blonde spiky hair, electric blue eyes, and 3 whisker-like marks on each cheek. He was wearing blue shorts, a white tank top, and black flip-flops. 10-year-old Naruto was having a bad day, no surprise there, he rarely had a good one. His life had been one long stream of misery since he was 4, when his parents decided that it was time to train his siblings, Nozomi, Natsumi, and Menma. They told him that he would start his training next year, exactly 1 year to the day. He asked if he was going to start training with his siblings. He could still remember. Flashback. Daddy, can I start my training with the others today please? A young Naruto asked his father. No Naruto, your siblings need the training more than you can start your training next year. Explained Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. But that's what you said last year. Why can't I start training like them? Naruto asked while pointing at his siblings, who were going through katas with his mother Kushina. Naruto, I'm not going to say this again. You are not starting your training this year, now go to your room. Minato was starting to get irritated now. But you promised, and you were always telling me to never go back on my word. Well, that goes for you too. Tears were gathering in Naruto's eyes. The reason that your siblings need training is because they are going to need it when they become ninja. You are never going to be one, so you don't need training, they are better than you, so go to your room now. Minato yelled at his son and stormed out into the backyard. Naruto just sat there with tears in his eyes as his father walked away. He had just been told that he wasn't going to be a ninja, the thing he wanted more than anything. Flashback end. After that day, he had avoided his family, and they just plain forgot about him. Even the extended family of the Sannin and his parents' students forgot about him. They forgot his birthday, to make food for him, and to bring him along when they do anything. He used to always play with his siblings when he had the chance. But then they started to put what they learned from their parents into their games. He couldn't keep up anymore, so they started to leave him behind, until they started to forget about him too, well, until they needed someone to put down. To understand why they were becoming ninja and Naruto wasn't one would have to know what happened on the day of his birth. When the quadruplets were born, the same day, a masked man came and held newborn Naruto hostage and kidnapped his mother. She was the container of the Kyuubi before Naruto. So the masked man ripped it out of her and set it to attack the village. The mountain-sized fox rampaged through the village, until his father arrived to fight it. After a long battle, his father decided the only course of action was to seal it away, and the only thing that could contain a Biju was a newborn baby, and only an Uzumaki could contain the Kyuubi, the strongest of all Biju. However, Kushina was the last of that long-extinct clan, until that night. So Minato took baby Naruto and performed a sealing ritual called the Hake no Shiki Fuin to summon the Shinigami to seal the fox away into Naruto, making him the 3rd container of the monstrous fox. Flashback. Minato Namikaze had just passed out after sealing the Kyuubi into his son, Naruto, and was ready for what was to come. The price of having summoned the god of death himself, his soul was to be taken. As the death god descended, a purple-skinned creature with horns on its head, black eyes, a tanto clenched in its sharp teeth, and clad in a white kimono, it looked upon the mortal that had summoned it, then to the child it had sealed the demon into. So this is the new jailer. It spoke in an ancient and powerful voice. Now for the soul, and as the god reached towards Minato, the baby cried and a tendril of shadow shot up and stabbed through the Shinigami's hand. The god looked puzzled. What is this? It took its hand off the spikes and its gaze turned back to the child, as if looking for something. This power, could he be? It paused. He, ha 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 ha. The god roared out a laugh, so he is the next actor in that ongoing play, the next destined to become the Dark King, the god mused to himself. This is going to be fun. He looked to Minato. You're lucky mortal, your son has earned you a pass this time, it doesn't really matter if I take your soul now. I'll get it eventually, a few decades doesn't matter to me much. He started staring at the boy, with newfound interest. But you, to dare strike me, and such control over your power as a newborn, you have caught my interest, boy. The god waved its hand over the child and watched as a glow came over him and a picture formed in the air of a constantly changing video, showing the child, at various ages, an old man, a young boy, and a man in his prime, with his name at the top. Naruto. The god watched as the image shattered like a pane of glass, and scattered into the wind. The god spoke again to the child, "Be grateful. I have given you a great gift. You would have been bound to the same fate as your predecessors, but I have shattered your fate. You are no longer bound by it. You are the one mortal in the universe that can truly choose their own destiny. You may even be able to change the fate of others. I look forward to seeing what you do in life, future Supreme King of the Gentle Darkness." With that, the god sensed the mortal's friends approaching and shimmered, vanishing, leaving the passed-out man and the crying newborn alone. Flashback end. Naruto took the news of not being a ninja hard, but he was able to figure out why. The seal on his stomach, what happened on his and his siblings' birthday. It didn't help that the villagers always called him Demon Boy or Fox Boy. He was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, and judging by how his parents were stressing sealing and suppression in their training, they were training his siblings to be his wardens, to keep Naruto on a leash in case he lost control. He guessed that they were afraid that since he didn't have Mito's experience, or the chakra chains, that he would lose control to the beast and go wild. Konoha Street Clan District. Right now Naruto was on his way to hang out with his friends. Even though he didn't have many, he treasured the ones he had. There was Sarutobi Hiruzen, Hyuga Hinata, Yamanaka Ino, and Haruno Sakura, plus he had his two surrogate mothers, Uchiha Makoto and Hyuga Hisana. Then there was his surrogate siblings, Uchiha Itachi, and Hyuga Hanabi. He met the girls at his third birthday party, and they had been friends ever since. He met Makoto when he was 8, wandering around the village. She knew who he was and started asking why he was there all alone, so he told her what his parents had done. She was about ready to storm the estate, but he stopped her, so she settled for being his new mom. It was through her that Naruto met her son, the famous Itachi. They got along because they were both prodigies, though nobody noticed Naruto, and Itachi started seeing Naruto as a second brother. But Sasuke didn't like Naruto and the feeling was mutual. Naruto was at least willing to try getting along with him, but Sasuke let his pride get in the way. Speaking of pride, Naruto could only go over to Makoto's house when Fugaku was gone, since Fugaku was a prick about his Uchiha superiority. Anyway, Naruto was on his way to the Hyuga compound to see his friends. They had decided to have a day to play together before the girls were put into the academy. He got to the compound and the guards let him right on in. A lot of the Hyuga weren't as bad as people thought they were. Sure, the elders and traditionalists could be jerks, but most of the Hyuga were stand-up guys. Even Hiyashi was like a marshmallow around Hinata and Hanabi. As Naruto was walking along, he started feeling like a rabbit being stalked by a wolf, a pair of glinting pale eyes boring into him. Then quicker than you could say Hirishin, he was tackled by a small black-haired missile by the name of Hanabi. Naruto picked his head up, shook the cobwebs from it, and looked down at the glaring Hanabi, who looked more adorable than scary. Baka ni-chan. When you make an engagement with a group of ladies, then you always arrive early in case they need your help with something. She scolded cutely. Since when was that a thing? Naruto asked, smirking. Since I just made it up. Hanabi yelled while flailing her arms around. Then a new voice cut in. Come now Hanabi-chan. Naru-chan can't play with you and the girls if you don't get off of him. The two turned to the voice and saw Hisana, Hinata and Hanabi's mother, watching them with a small smile on her face. As they were getting up, Naruto couldn't help but think about how Hisana's feelings about him had changed. When he first came over to play with Hinata, Hisana didn't like him. Because she and Kushina were mortal enemies from the academy all the way to the present, since they had such conflicting personalities they never got along and eventually it turned into hate. But after a while and hearing about Naruto's life, Hisana started to treat Naruto just like Makoto did, like a son. Speaking of Makoto, she was also there. She didn't have anything to do. What with Itachi on a mission and Fugaku training Sasuke, she decided to come over and watch the kids play. Makoto and Kushina used to be best friends until Naruto treatment caused Makoto to drive a wedge between them. Thought she and Hisana got along fine, mostly because Makoto always tried to be the mediator between Kushina and Hisana. There you are Naruto-kun, we've been waiting, said a young platinum blonde girl. It was in a short cut. This girl also had pupil-less baby blue eyes and was wearing a yellow sundress. Please tell me that you didn't buy into that early thing that Hanabi's spouting off Ino-chan. Naruto fake pleaded. Please, the now named Ino said in a haughty tone, I was the one who taught it to her. Of course you were. Naruto deadpanned. Please Ino-chan, you shouldn't tease Naruto-kun like that. Hinata told her friend. Hinata was a girl with indigo-colored hair in a short princess cut. The pale, milky, pupil-less eyes that her clan was known for, and wearing a pale blue floral kimono with white obi. Ah come on Hinata-chan, it's not hurting anyone. Sakura told her brunette friend. Sakura was a girl with emerald green eyes, long pink hair, and was wearing a red Chinese-style dress. I know but still. She began. Don't worry about it Hinata-chan, I know she's just having fun. Naruto assured his shy friend. He was very grateful that his friends were there for him, though if his mother knew that he was friends with the spawns of the pale bitch, she would have a cow. Hinata was really shy when Naruto first met her, but Ino and Sakura helped to break her out of her shell. She still had her shy moments but at least she didn't stutter in every sentence anymore. There was a close call in losing Ino and Sakura to the dark side of the romance, the dreaded fangirlism. When they first saw Sasuke, they started to turn, but a swift smack from Hinata broke them out of that, and they saw what a jerk he really was. Naruto had a pretty good way with the ladies as well, not in the fangirl way, they were all taken by Sasuke and Menma. But hanging out with only girls let him have a keen insight into the mind of a girl and taught him how to be respectful of them and their feelings, something that Makoto and Hisana were thankful for. Becoming friends with Sakura was hard at first because Sakura's mother was an adamant Naruto hater, but eventually, he won her over, though needless to say, her mother had no idea. After playing with his friends until about 9 o'clock, Naruto decided that it was time for him to go home, so he started on his way. Hisana and Makoto let him go alone because even if the villagers were idiots and hated him for what he contained, they wouldn't hurt him, at least that's what Naruto told them. In reality, the villagers were not above beating him on their fox hunts. There hadn't been any mobs in over a year, and he was able to get away from the odd civilian that came after him. Most of the ninja understood the difference between him and the fox, but there was still a few that liked to torment him. As Naruto was walking, he started to hear the telltale footsteps of a growing group trying to silently follow him. He got ready to run. He had to carefully plot out his route or he could get cornered in an alley, then he'd have nowhere to go. After quickly plotting out a route, Naruto took off as fast as his legs could carry him. He heard the mob pick up speed as well, some of them yelling. As he was running, he realized that he couldn't get away. He was just too young to get away from them. He was going to get caught. He needed help. Anyone. He just needed someone to help him. Take a right up at the weapon shop. Naruto would have questioned where the voice was coming from, but right now, he had bigger things to worry about, like getting away. So he took the right and found himself in an alley that he could easily maneuver through due to his size, but the mob would have to go around. He ran out on the other side and found his way to another alley. He didn't know what to do. The only way out was back the way he came or out the one exit that the mob was coming up on. He was trapped. There's a manhole beneath you. Open it up and climb down. Naruto looked and, sure enough, there was a manhole beneath his feet, so he opened it up and climbed down. Don't forget to put the cover back on. Thank you voice in my head. Naruto would have forgotten if the voice didn't remind him. So he placed the cover back on and descended into the darkness. Konoha sewers. This is starting to get weird. Naruto thought as he walked along the stone path on the side of the sewer line. His eyes had adjusted to the darkness to where he could see a bit, but he still needed the voice to guide him. Get over it and keep walking, the voice told Naruto. It had been guiding him for a few hours now. He didn't know where it was taking him, but it was his best chance. He thought that it might have been a Yamanaka, given their mind and telepathy techniques. But this voice didn't sound human. It sounded like many voices speaking together, with the dominant voice sounding like a teenage girl. Whatever this voice was, it was clear that it wasn't leading him to his house. He should have passed it a long time ago. You're a smart boy, now stop. Directly to your right is a ladder leading up to a maintenance hatch. It leads to an old escape tunnel from the Shoden Hokage's era, which has been long forgotten. Now move along the passage to the end. Above you will be a wooden trapdoor. Bite your finger and wipe some blood on it. Naruto did just what the voice told him to do, and proceeded down the path that looked like it was made by a Mokuton jutsu. He didn't try going against the voice because he heard that some mind jutsu users could crush a person's mind with their telepathy. He eventually got to the end and found the door. He bit his thumb and wiped his blood on the door. Suddenly, an ancient ceiling array came to life on the door, and after a minute, disappeared and the trapdoor flipped open with a soft thunk. Naruto climbed out and looked around. It was nowhere near as dark as the tunnel, so he could see everything, and it was then that he realized he had gotten into some deep shit. He was in the Hokage's vault, the one that held every dangerous artifacts ever to come into the village, the one that only the Hokage was allowed to enter. He knew this because he saw all the traps placed on the door, all the locks, and the sacred scroll, that held every dangerous and/or secret technique in the village. Calm down and listen to me. In the back of the vault, the very back, is a small cubby that holds a number of small artifacts. I want you to reach into the very back and grab a necklace on a black cord. The pendant is about the same size as a playing card. Naruto reached in and, sure enough, there was the necklace. He saw that one side had a golden eye on it and the other had a black base, and it looked like sparks were swirling around in a whirlpool pattern, but it looked like it had two sections. One side looked like it opened into one thin compartment, only enough space for one piece of paper, and the same on the opposite side. Then, he put the necklace around his neck, and booked it back through the tunnel. Namikaze compound. After being guided back to his house, Naruto flew into his room, locked the door, and hid in his closet. Heroic, no? He was sitting in the dark, breathing hard and his heart pounding. The dark always calmed him down, but not tonight. I just stole from the sacred vault. I could get executed if anyone found out about this. And I did it all on the words of a voice in my freaking head. Calm down, Naruto-kun. Calm down. How can I calm down? And how do you know my name? Who are you? Naruto raged in his head. Giggle, we will meet face to face in time, Naruto-kun. For now, just go to sleep, and keep that necklace safe. We will talk again soon, and my name is Yubel. With that, the voice faded away and left Naruto's mind. Wait, but Naruto was too late. The voice has faded. Then he took out the necklace and looked at it. He had two choices. He could either go to his parents and tell them about what happened, or keep it to himself, and keep the necklace safe like the voice asked. After thinking about it, he realized that if he went to his parents, they wouldn't believe anything about his story, and the necklace was from the back of the vault. They wouldn't even believe it came from there. Play. Fairy tale past story. Naruto couldn't help but think about his life. He wondered if his family would even care if he got killed by that mob. He didn't even notice the venom that had entered his voice, nor one of his eyes flashing a menacing golden color before returning to normal. He thought about how his life was being decided for him, how eventually his friends would become ninja with lives and responsibilities of their own and leave him behind to waste away in a dismal abyss of a life. He wondered if this Yubel could help him. Yubel. He took one last look at the pendant and whispered to himself as he fell asleep. It almost looks like a card. The next morning, Naruto woke up the next morning still partially freaking out about what he did the day before. After all, it was kind of a big deal. But, if the necklace was all the way in the back, then chances are that nobody would know it was missing, and nobody would believe that a 10-year-old got into the sacred vault and took the necklace by himself, since they wouldn't know about Yubel. Speaking of Yubel, Naruto wondered what would happen when they finally met. Would she kidnap him? Would she take the necklace and kill him? He had no idea, but there was no use worrying about it now. Then he realized that today was a special day. It was October 10th, his birthday. Yay. He hated his birthday. His friends tried to make it better, but the bad feelings outweighed the good. What with his parents completely forgetting about him, everyone else doing the same, the villagers putting on a festival to celebrate the Kyuubi's defeat and celebrating the miracle triplets, as his siblings were called, yet another day of being ignored. He walked out into the hallway only to run into his younger brother Menma. Watch it, loser, he said as he walked down the stairs. His sisters Natsumi and Nozomi came up next. Natsumi commented first, why don't you just disappear? Nobody wants you around anyway. Nozomi followed up with, yeah, why do you even bother anymore, just leave. Naruto was sick of their shit. Fine. They all looked up at him in confusion. A cold chill settled in their spines as they looked into his golden eyes. Wait, weren't they blue? Naruto spoke again as he walked past them and toward the library. I will leave. But when I come back, I'll break all three of you. He didn't even say it as a threat, just a simple fact. The triplets just dismissed it as him being stupid. He wouldn't really leave, he didn't have it that bad. Right? Later, at the party, Namikaze Estate backyard. Naruto was currently sitting off to the side, watching as his family showered his siblings with presents while he got Jack. He would have been able to at least bear it if his friends were there, but Ino was being forced to help run her family's stand in the festival. Makoto had to stay home and take care of a sick Sasuke. Itachi was still out on his mission. Hisana wouldn't be able to get through the door without his mother going full fruit fly on her and the girls. While Sakura was imprisoned in a family day at her house, and Hiruzen was on a diplomatic errand to the Fire Daimyo's palace. Then his father decided he wanted to say something. Attention everyone. I have an announcement to make. Everyone stopped to pay attention, even Naruto. I have decided that my son Menma will become the heir to both the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. And I hope that my 3 wonderful kids will become great ninja and live long and happy lives. What? But that's my right. Naruto thought angrily. Hold on, 3. That son of a bitch completely forgot about me. How dare they? Naruto could feel a dark power building up inside him. He had felt this before. When he got angry, he felt this power bubble up. He could still remember when it came out during Hinata's kidnapping. He was walking through the forest when he came across a Kumo nin carrying and knocked out Hinata. He had gotten in the way and told the ninja to put her down. He didn't know what happened, but one moment the Kumo ninja is running off about turning Hinata into breeding stock for her Byakugan, then Naruto got angry. The next thing he knew, trees were broken, the ground was cracked, and the Kumo nin was impaled against a tree by a shadowy spike. Then he blacked out. He knew at that moment that he had to keep this power suppressed, under control. Set it loose. Yubel? What do you mean? The last time I used this power I killed someone. This power, this darkness is a part of you. Everyone has a dark side, but most suppress it. Some try to defeat it to gain its power. But those who learn to accept their darkness as a part of themselves become truly strong. Accept my darkness? Yes, darkness gets a bad representative because of what people have done with it, but it depends on the user. Even the greatest hero can use darkness, and the most evil villain can use light. It is not the power itself, but the people behind the power. Quit restraining yourself, let go. Naruto didn't know it, but during that whole conversation, only a single second had passed in the real world. Let go and release my power, don't restrain myself. Play. Fairy Tail released power. Yeah, Naruto said as his eyes shifted to gold and he gave a dark smirk. Black smoky shadow rolled off of Naruto and climbed high into the sky. It was then that everyone was frozen by this power. The experienced ninja were caught off guard and captured in it too, even the Hokage and his wife. Naruto just looked at them with cold blue eyes and walked straight past them toward the house. He passed through and kept walking straight to the Hyuga compound. End song. The next morning, Naruto was sitting next to a koi pond in the Hyuga gardens, watching the fish as he thought about his new power. It felt so amazing to let it free. He finally felt whole. Lima, a part of himself, had been locked away, and was now loose. He had stayed at the compound for the night. Hisana had been happy to help him through this. He heard something and looked to the side to see all of his friends looking ready to comfort him. Naru-chan, Hisana said softly as Makoto looked ready to blow a wall of the Namikaze compound away with her yelling at the Namikaze family. Naruto-kun, I am so sorry that this happened, Sakura said while putting her hand on Naruto's shoulder. It's fine. No, it is not fine. Ino interjected. Those people pretty much disowned you and they didn't even seem to care. It was true, by removing Naruto from the position as heir, they had effectively disowned him. Naruto-kun, there was something that I wanted to talk to you about, stated the ever-stoic Itachi. You seem more at peace than I have seen in a long time. I think it has something to do with that dark power we heard that you released. Dark power? What power, Naru-chan? Makoto asked. I can help with that. Yubel? Naruto asked, confused. Who said that? Sakura yelled as the adults jumped into taijutsu stances. I will show you, Naruto-kun. Do you still have the necklace? Naruto-kun, what necklace? What's going on? Hinata asked. Yeah, I still have it, Naruto said as he pulled out the pendant from his shirt. Good, then open the compartment with the eye on it and take out what's inside, then all will be explained. Naruto, don't, it could be a trap. Itachi said. Please guys, just let me do this. Naruto said as he found the clasp and opened the pendant. Inside he saw a card? Indeed, it was a card. It had the picture of a creature with purple and black skin, half silver and half blue hair. a third eye, claws on its right hand, and a monstrous-looking left arm. One foot looked like a regular human arms, and the other looked like a dragon foot. Last but not least, it had two large dragon-like wings on its back. What is that freaky-looking thing? Leave it to Ino to be as blunt as a mallet. That's not very nice, little girl. The creature said as it somehow appeared next to them. Who are you? And why does Ni-san have you in his necklace? Asked Hanabi, summing up everyone else's questions. This led to Naruto explaining how he got the necklace and the whole voice in his head thing. I am Yubel, and I am a dual spirit, Naruto's spirit to be precise. She explained, giving more questions than answers. Before you start, allow me to finish speaking. I inhabit the card that Naruto is holding. Back in ancient times, even before what the Rikudu Sanin would think was ancient, people used to play a game called Duel Monsters. And so Yubel explained about the game, its rise to popularity, and its dark roots deep in the shadows of Egypt, and the heroes who worked with spirits to beat the evil back. That is until the Shinju showed up and blew everything to hell, starting humanity over again. She also told about how she was the guardian of an even more ancient entity, the Supreme King of Darkness. Wow, that's a lot to take in. Itachi said, his stoic face broken for once. Wait a minute. Sakura spoke up, if you were the guardian of this Supreme King, and you're Naruto-kun's dual spirit, then Ni-san's a freaking king. Hanabi yelled in excitement. I am? Naruto asked, still trying to take it in. Yes you are, I usually am with the next king long before this. But you were harder to find, you looked different from the others before you. And it also didn't help that the vault was blocking my communications. At this, Yubel huffed in irritation. Why were you locked up in there anyway? Makoto asked. Tobirama Senju found me and the others and stuck us in the necklace. He sensed our shadow energy and got paranoid. Yubel explained. Others? Hinata asked, confused. I wasn't the only one sealed away. There are tons of other cards in the other compartment of the necklace, take a look. And when Naruto looked like Yubel suggested, there was a small storage seal in the compartment. When Naruto opened them, 6 small leather rectangular pouches and 1 thinner black metal case popped out. The leather cases contain regular cards, while the black one contains certain special cards. You are nowhere near ready for those ones, but I can start training you on your shadow powers and how to use the cards whenever you're ready. After we fully awaken you of course. Yubel explained with a smile. Fully awakened? What does that mean? Hisana asked. At this, Yubel took on a more serious face. The reason that I couldn't find you was because your energy was out of whack. I suspect it was the Kyuubi's doing. He has created a dark version of you in your mind that has all of your Supreme King powers. You'll need to confront them to awaken you. Well then, let's get started. Naruto exclaimed. Hold on Naruto-kun. This could be dangerous, are you sure you want to do this? Itachi asked. Yes, this feels like something I have to do. Naruto said with conviction. The others saw the look in his eye and realized that nothing would stop them. The girls were the first to respond. Naruto-kun, be careful. Ino told him. Don't you dare lose to that furball. Sakura said. If you lose, I'll beat you up. Hanabi said, adding her own 2 cents. Please be okay. Hinata pleaded. I will, and thank you, for everything. Naruto said as he got into a meditative position on a stone in the center of the pond and Yubel returned to her card. Okay Sama, would you help me put up a genjutsu around the garden? Itachi asked his mother. Of course. So Makoto and Itachi got to work weaving their most powerful genjutsu. Meanwhile, in Naruto's mindscape, Naruto appeared outside a gigantic, gothic-looking castle. He decided to open the door and enter, and as he walked in, he saw that the main room was a cathedral-sized throne room, with black marble floors, white Greek columns lining the sides, a blood-red carpet leading to a raised dais at the end, and a black spiked throne in the center. If Naruto had looked around, he would have noticed the Egyptian tapestries lining the walls, and 5 dragon paintings on the walls, or the long red dragon statue twisting around the ceiling, maybe even the 3 statues around the throne. But he didn't notice any of those things. No, his attention was drawn to the figure sitting on the steps of the dais. It was another Naruto. Only this one had menacing golden eyes and a cruel smile on his lips. Well, you're here. Call me Hao, the now named Hao said. So, you're my dark half? Naruto asked. Yep, and now, die, Hao said as he fired a blast of darkness. Naruto just stood there as it enveloped him. Hao thought that he had won, so why wasn't he out? He saw, Naruto was completely fine, still with the same expression on his face. WHWH what? Hao screeched in disbelief. How did you survive that? It doesn't matter, you won't survive this. He started firing a huge wave of darkness at Naruto, and he kept firing. He didn't realize that it wasn't working until Naruto's hand reached out of the darkness and grabbed his wrist. What? How? Why can't I kill you? Naruto just looked at him with a small smile, not a smirk, an actual smile. You don't get it, I already accepted you. WH what? Hao was confused. Naruto just kept smiling. I already accepted it, you're a part of me. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You were expecting me to lock you away, weren't you? Don't worry, I wouldn't do that to you. You. Hao stood there shocked. Then, he smiled, and started fading from the mindscape. You're alright. Then, he fully disappeared. Naruto stood there waiting to go back. When he realized that there must be something else for him to do there. Well, I didn't expect that. A deep ominous voice said from the side of the throne room. Naruto looked over and saw an enormous metal gate, blocking a dark room. Then he walked over to it. I at least expected the typical, no you're not me, I'm nothing like you. Yada yada, but I certainly didn't expect that, said the Kyuubi as it walked into the light. Then, the beast's claw shot out of the bars, but stopped short of Naruto's eye by a few centimeters. Impressive, to not flinch a bit, you're no ordinary flesh bag. So, got anything to say to me, boy? I'm much smarter than people think, even if your claw reached me. It couldn't hurt me, you're still behind the seal. Plus, even if you could, you wouldn't kill me. If I died, then so do you. Naruto said to the fox. You're sharp. Now down to business. I propose a deal between us. I recognize that, like it or not, we're stuck together, so we might as well make the best of it. What are the terms? Let it be said that Naruto, even as a kid, was no sucker. I want you to allow me access to your senses, so I can experience the outside world for myself. To let me out of the seal should you ever find a way to do it without killing yourself, and a mental link between us, so we can communicate, and in return I will give you tutoring on chakra techniques and fuinjutsu. You know fuinjutsu? Naruto asked. My last 2 containers were sealing masters, I can teach you to be one as well. The Kyuubi said with a smirk. Now back to what I bring to the table, I can also allow you access to my chakra, however there are stipulations. I get to decide whether you get chakra or not, and I will judge the situation to decide how much you get. Now, do you accept? One more thing. Why did you attack the village anyway? Naruto asked. Tisk, that masked jackass put me under a genjutsu with his Sharingan. If I had my choice, I would have left and went to the mountains or something. Kyuubi said with an irritated expression. Well, thank you, and I hope that we can be friends, Kyuubi. Naruto said with a smile. It's Kurama, and another thing. You have a lot to live up to, Kit, the Supreme King, the blood of the Pharaoh, and that annoying lizard's mark. You've got a busy life ahead. What do you mean? Naruto asked before he was ejected from the mindscape. In the Hyuga Gardens, everyone was talking about what they just learned when a stiff wind blew from where Naruto was. They all looked and saw something that they'd never forget. The water was churning as 5 spectral figures appeared in the shadow rolling off of Naruto. A long red dragon with 2 mouths. A gigantic blue armored warrior. A golden armored bird dragon hybrid. A dragon as long as the first made of crimson, white, and black flames. And last but not least, Yubel herself. After they had faded away, they all looked to see that Naruto was awake, and looked different. His eyes were now a piercing gold. And his hair was definitely unique. It started as a burned orange color, but turned a chestnut brown about a third of the way down. There was also a fringe going down his face between his right eye and his nose that was a combination of black, gold, and violet, though his whisker marks were still there, but they were darker, more jagged and rough. But it wasn't just his face that had changed. He now had a dull red mark on his arm, which looked like a dragon head. Hey guys, he said in a deeper voice than before he was hit with 3 glomps at once. Gah. A couple minutes later, Naruto was currently asking Yubel about what Kurama had said before Naruto left the mindscape. What did he mean by blood of the Pharaoh and this mark? I remember you telling me about Yugi Moto and his connection to the Pharaoh, also about the Crimson Dragon. But why do I have the Pharaoh's blood, and the head mark of the Crimson Dragon? Yubel struck a thinking pose and said, I already knew about Yugi's blood in your veins, But I didn't think that it would be potent enough to matter much. The mark and your dark power must have amplified the blood's power. Speaking of the mark, the Crimson Dragon chooses those it believes are worthy to wield its mark, so it must have had its eye on you. Being a Jinchuriki and the next Supreme King, it must have just decided to give you its mark after seeing your life. One thing is for sure though, the signers only appear when something big is happening. The same with the Supreme King. So whatever is happening, Naruto is going to play an important role. After that happy thought, Naruto decided that since they were already dropping bombs, he might as well add one more. Guys, there's something I wanted to tell you. I thought about it for a while, and I think it's for the best. Naruto said after successfully prying the girls off of him. I think that I should leave the village. What? Everyone besides Itachi yelled. Please just let me explain. Naruto pleaded. If I stay here, I can't train with Yubel because someone would tell the Hokage and I would never be let out of the house again. Plus, I've always wanted to be a ninja, but I'll never become one in this village. I feel like if I leave and go somewhere else, then I can finally achieve my dream. Everyone was thinking about what he had said, and he was right. Leaving the village would be the best thing for him. But we'll miss you, Ni-san. Hanabi pleaded. I know, and I'll miss you guys too, but it's not like we'll never see each other again. Naruto assured the crying 7-year-old. Naru-chan, are you sure that you'll be okay? Hisana asked quietly. Naruto looked each of them in the eye and said, I promise, and I also give you all my word that we'll meet again, and I never go back on my word. Then, Hinata walked up to him. Naruto-kun, promise me one thing. Sure Hinata-chan, what is it? Naruto asked. She seemed nervous, but took a deep breath and looked Naruto in the eye. The next time we meet, you have to take me on a date. She told him loudly. Naruto, needless to say, was shocked. Okay, Sue. Hold on just a minute. Ino spoke up. If you take her on a date, then you have to take me on one too. Don't wave me out, I want a date too. And Sakura makes 3. Naruto sat there in a catatonic state before opening his mouth. At the Namikaze compound, a little past midnight. Naruto was taking one last look at his former home. He had just snuck in and helped himself to a few things, like scrolls on the Rasengan, Hiraishin, various sword styles, elemental jutsu, Kage Bushin, chakra control, and a beauty of a scroll on increasing a Jinchuriki's ability to withstand a Biju's corrosive chakra. He had also taken some rations and basic supplies. He then started on his way to the secret tunnel that Yubel had told him about. On his way, he thought about the day that he'd just spent with his friends. They had made the most of their time together, and even taken a few pictures. The one that Naruto was secretly partial to was the one of Ino, Sakura, and Hinata giving him a kiss on the cheek. One thing though that he didn't know how to feel about, was that the girls were going to put up facades at the academy to make people underestimate them. After all, deception was the shinobi's greatest weapon. They had decided that Sakura and Ino would act like rabid fangirls. Shudder. And Hinata was going to be a shy wallflower. He just hoped that they wouldn't go too overboard. He was sad that he had to leave them behind, but he needed to do this. He absent-mindedly wiped a stray tear from his eye as he came upon the wall surrounding Konoha, careful to keep his shadow cover over him, so he wouldn't be spotted by the Anbu guard. See that storage shed placed against the wall? Go inside it and there will be a switch on the bottom right corner of the back wall. Push it and the door should slide open. And don't worry Naruto-kun, you'll see them again in time. Yubel assured him from her place in the necklace. Naruto resolved himself and went inside the shed, and sure enough, there was the switch. As he walked through the tunnel, he was thankful that there was one good thing about Yubel having to wander around the village in spirit form for decades. She probably knew more about the village's infrastructure than the village archives. After a few minutes of walking, he came to a dead end with a few steps leading into a hollow wooden tube above him. As he got to it, he found a door and pushed it open. He saw moonlight flood the area, showing him that the tunnel exit was actually a hollowed-out tree. Oh, the cliché was strong. After looking around for a few minutes, he found the main road and looked back in the direction of Konoha. He vaguely saw the main gate in the distance, and in that moment, the reality of what he'd done caught up with him. He had ran away from home and was now supposed to face the world. He thought for a single moment about going back. Don't you dare, Kit. You've gone too far to back out now. Plus, you have me and the Dragon Lady with you, so you're not alone. You'll feel more and more capable once your training starts. Now look back down the road. hold your head high, and move forward. A king must never appear weak in his decisions," said Kurama in his strangely motivating way. Then Yubel decided to speak up. "The furball's right, Naruto-kun, you have us with you, and I know you'll meet even more people on your journey." "Thanks guys, and I should let you know that I've been planning on traveling around the nations for a while before settling somewhere," Naruto told his two companions. "That sounds like a good idea. Whatever," were the two responses. As Naruto started walking down the road, he started thinking, and he couldn't help but wonder what kind of adventures he was going to have. Well, one thing was for sure, his life would never be boring for long. Somewhere in Mizu no Kuni, 6 years later, a 16-year-old Naruto was lying down on his sleeping bag, staring up at the roof of his tent. He hadn't changed much over the years. His hair has grown out to reach his mid-back and he had a muscular form that could make hardcore Sasuke fangirls weak at the knees. He had also grown to a tall height of 6 feet 2 inches, making him taller than damn near anyone in his age group. He started thinking about all that had happened over the years. He had began his training with Kurama and Yubel a few days after leaving. His monsters had also taught him how to use a sword. His go-to weapon was Celestial Sword, Ito's, and after these 6 years, he was easily Chunin level, and when he strained himself, he was a match for a Junin, as were his two companions in a pinch. "Naru-kun, breakfast is ready. Come get some," cried a soft female voice from outside. "In a minute," Naruto called back. "Now then, why are you in my sleeping bag, Aki-chan?" he asked the beautiful girl who was half on him and laying her head on his chest. "I just wanted to be close to you, Naru-koi, and now that you're awake, I want to be even closer," Akiza said lowly as she slid up and kissed him. Naruto responded by wrapping his arms around her waist and kissing back. Naruto could do this because his 3 other girlfriends back in Konoha had given him the okay, yes, as in plural. He had sent his friend Winged Kuribo to give the girls each a card after about a year on the road so that they could communicate through them. After a lot of talking, the girls had decided that they wanted to date Naruto for real, and even though he hadn't seen them for years, Naruto loved them as if they were right there with him. They had also told him that if he came across any other girls that he truly loved, then they would love to have more sisters. Of course, they wanted to meet the other girls, but that would be a little complicated right then. But Naruto knew that the two groups would get along well. He was pulled out of his musings by Akiza putting a little more passion into the kiss and slipping her tongue into his mouth, and he responded in kind. "Will you wake up already?" said the voice from before as a cute sky blue-haired girl poked her head through the tent flap. Before she gained an atomic blush on her face. "Akiza, stop that, it's way too early for your weird shenanigans," she scolded. Akiza broke the kiss and said, "Fine, you can be such a killjoy, Luna," said Akiza as she got up and started getting ready, showing Naruto that she was only wearing her black lace bra and panty set. Naruto got up as well and put his armor on. "Do you have to do that every morning, Aki-chan?" he asked. "Of course I do," Akiza said with a smirk as she left the tent. Naruto started thinking about when he met the slightly psychotic beauty. Flashback. 4 years ago, small village in Tetsu no Kuni. Naruto had just got his new armor put on, and boy was it awesome. It was a bit like the original Supreme King's armor. It had the same lower body look, with a few modifications. The knee spikes were gone, and the cloth flaps around the waist were gone. Plus his 6 decks were placed on his belt, 3 on each side, while the special metal case was in the seal on his necklace, which was tucked into his shirt. The upper body was more modified, however. The shoulder pads and sleeves were gone. The gauntlets had been made fingerless. All of the armor was thinner and more conforming. And last but not least, the red cape was gone, and had been replaced by a red piece of cloth attached to either side of his waist and the back, hanging down behind him to his knees, with a face mask attached to hide his whisker marks. He had been working for a famous armor smith for the last few weeks to get it. The man had wanted to know why Naruto's parents weren't with him, and Naruto couldn't come up with a story that the man believed, so he told the man the truth, and then he told Naruto that if he worked in the shop for a few weeks, then he would make Naruto some armor free of charge, so Naruto took it. Now back to the plot. Naruto was walking along when he felt something strange. He had discovered his sensing ability a few months ago, and decided to find out what it was. It felt familiar, but he just couldn't place it. And as he followed it, he came upon a mental hospital? This will be an interesting experience. Yubel spoke up from the necklace. Sitting in a dark windowless room was a girl of about 12 years old, sitting on a bed, with long maroon hair that covered most of her face, coffee brown eyes, and was wearing a hospital gown. She had a defeated look that should never be seen on a child's face. Akiza didn't know what to do. Her powers were getting harder to control by the day, and the accommodations didn't help. She hated the hospital, and she hated her mother with a passion. She had put Akiza in the town orphanage because she was ashamed. When Akiza was young, she had learned the truth that her mother never wanted her. Akiza was an accident created from a drunken, depressed mistake. When her mother had dropped Akiza off at the orphanage and told her that she would be back to get her in a little bit, Akiza had been naive enough to believe her. But she waited like a good little girl. That was 5 years ago. Then, her powers came. She had killed an older boy that had tried to rape her. She didn't mean to, she just wanted him to go away. But then the vines stabbed him so fast, Akiza didn't know what to do. The matron decided to lock her away. The doctors still came to try and talk to her, but she never talked to them. The only reason that she hadn't gone insane was because of the little white and blue talking slugs that would visit her. They couldn't stay for long though, because their summoner wouldn't like them being there. She used to pray for her mother to come get her, now. Akiza wanted out so she could hunt the bitch down. She had at first thought that her mother had come for her, but didn't know where to find her. But then she realized that the hospital was only a few blocks down from the orphanage, and her mother could easily get the location out of the matron. Some part of her still loved her mother, but there was only so much a person could take before they snapped. Akiza was dangerously close to that line. She was starting to think about just giving up, and trying to kill herself, until he came. "You look like you could use a friend," Naruto stated as he got rid of his shadow cover. Sneaking through the facility had been ridiculously easy, but he was surprised that this girl was the source of that power. Who are you? Go away, Akiza yelled, scared. Naruto started walking closer. No, stay away from me, leave me alone. As Akiza yelled this, black vines crashed through the wall from the outside and nearly impaled Naruto, but he was faster. Akiza started crying and got ready for the end. She was scared out of her mind. He was obviously a ninja. So maybe he was here to kill the witch, or take her to his village as a weapon, or worse. That is, until a gentle hand caressed her cheek and wiped her tears away. She looked up and saw that he wasn't looking at her with fear and hate like everyone else. He looked at her with compassion and warmth. "Now tell me, why is a beautiful girl like you crying in a place like this?" She didn't know why, but she felt safe with him, so she let it all go. She dove into his chest and cried her heart out while telling him everything, until she fell asleep in his arms. Naruto for his part was pissed, not at the girl, but at her mother. Akiza didn't deserve this, nobody did. Naruto decided that he was going to help her, so he scooped her up into his arms princess style and walked out of the hospital. Of course doctors and nurses tried to stop him, but he just blasted them away with his power. As he walked out of the hospital and back to the inn, he noticed something that nearly made him drop Akiza. On her arm was a pair of dull, red claw marks, like his head mark. "She's a signer?" he whispered to himself. "Well, that's interesting," Yubel said from her card. "What? It used to be that there were 2 claw marks. She has 1 mark with both claws. That means that either there's a new signer symbol, or that there are only 4 signers now. No use thinking about it, just focus on getting the girl some help." With that, Naruto kept going on his path, his mind plagued with thoughts about the signers and the future. Another thing that was on Naruto's mind was Akiza's mother. He thought he knew who she was, even though Akiza hadn't mentioned her name. A Konoha ninja had been absent for 8 years, starting a bit before the Kyuubi attack, and if the time frame was correct, along with what Akiza told Naruto about her, and the plant abilities, there was only one woman who it could be. Tsunade Senju. Flashback end. Naruto had taken Akiza to an actual shrink to help her, and after convincing her that the doctor wouldn't hurt her, Naruto got Akiza to open up to him. As it turned out, Akiza wasn't obsessed with him because of hero worship, like Naruto had thought. She instead saw him as a kindred spirit, and the one person who could understand her. After a few months, she had gotten less clingy and started showing more of her real self, and Naruto had actually started to fall for her. Plus the girls in Konoha had approved of her after hearing her story. Naruto had also given Akiza a very special card, so that they could have a mental link. Naruto and Akiza left the tent and went out to sit by the fire with Luna. Speaking of Luna, the two had met her about a year into their trip. She had been born with incredible psychic powers. Her parents were nobles who wanted to use Luna's power to control everyone with blackmail stolen from their own minds. She had refused, so they had abandoned the 13-year-old Luna to an orphanage, taking her twin brother with them, and disowned her. Naruto and Akiza had met her when they were passing by. They saw her sitting alone. The other kids were laughing at her and calling her a freak, so the two beat all of them into the ground and took Luna to get something to eat. After hearing her story, then they had asked her if she wanted to go with them. What happened next was very interesting. Flashback. Again, sitting in a booth at a small cafe were three teenagers, Naruto, Akiza, and a new addition, a girl with sky blue hair, olive green eyes, and a pale complexion. "So, how about it?" Naruto asked while Akiza was looking at Luna with a small smile. Akiza had gotten better, but was still learning to interact with people. "Want to come along with us?" "I don't know. Could you give me a second to think about it?" Luna asked quietly. Naruto simply smiled and said, "Of course." Then threw the link to Akiza with their cards. "Akiza, don't be alarmed, but she's going to read our minds. Probably to see if we're tricking her. Just let her in, it's alright. We three are all the same." Akiza was understandably scared, but Naruto's assurance helped her calm down. Then they felt it. Luna was ghosting her way through their minds. Naruto thought that she was almost as good as Yubel. He had heard that the best Yamanaka couldn't make themselves this stealthy. That's why the target had to be restrained, because someone would know that they were in. But Luna, Naruto had amazing mental defenses from his training, but he could barely feel her slip by. Granted, he was letting her, but it was still impressive. "Damn, she's good at this," Kurama said from the mindscape. After a few minutes, Luna stopped, and for whatever reason, she had a huge blush on her face. Then she spoke in a quiet voice. "I'm sorry about what happened to you. I'm sorry for reading your minds, and if the offer is still open, then I would love to go with you." She had a pleading look in her eyes. Naruto was going to say something, but Akiza beat him to it. "Welcome to the family." It was then that the three noticed something. Their forearms were glowing red. They each brought their arms up to see that Naruto's head mark was glowing, Akiza's claw marks were too, and a mark on Luna was too. She had a mark in the form of a U-shape, with a line inside it every few inches. One end was flat, while the other was pointed. "What is this?" Luna said with some fear in her voice. Naruto took a moment to explain the signers to her, and she calmed down a bit. "Well, there is a new mark. It looks like the dragon's body. Must have been made to add a sense of completeness and balance to the dragon, or to give it a more solid form." Flashback end. Whatever Luna had seen in the two's heads, she had gained a small crush on the Supreme King, which had only grown after the three had started traveling, and the Konoha girls were okay with Luna too. The two girls had definitely grown up during their trip. Akiza now had a curvy figure that would make a supermodel green with envy. She wore a drill-like hair clip to keep the hair out of her eyes, and it also helped to keep her chakra suppressed. She had great control over her Mokuton now. The suppression was mostly to travel unnoticed and have a trump card when it was taken off. She was wearing an outfit that looked amazing on her, and fit her to a T, her everyday 5 deciseconds outfit. Luna had her hair longer, almost down to the small of her back, and wore a new outfit. She wore a pink shirt with a few buttons on top, elbow-length sleeves, and was longer in the back than the front. White short shorts with a black leather belt, white, knee-length ninja sandals, a medical pouch on the back of her waist, and white elbow-length fingerless gloves. "They still don't have shit on me," Yubel commented. The three companions sat down to breakfast and once more went over their choice. They had decided to become Kiri ninja. They had heard that the rebels had won the war and that the new Mizukage was a kind woman who would lay her life down for her men. They hoped that she would accept them. On the road to Kirigakure, the three ninja hopefuls were on their way to Kiri. Well, at least they would be, if they hadn't run into 3 ex-Kiri ninja. Let's call them dumbasses number 1, 2, and 3, shall we? 1, who was the leader, looked at them and said, "I'm going to go out on limb and say that you 3 are bloodline users who are trying to get into Kiri. Well, that's not going to happen." At this, 3 spoke up. "Even if they're not, we could just kill the boy and take the girls," he said with a lecherous grin. "I like that idea." 2 agreed. This was going to be brutal. 1 brutal minute later. "That was pathetic," Naruto said as Akiza was spouting off obscenities at the dead ninja while kicking them. "Maybe they were flunkies?" Luna said while secretly wanting to join Akiza. The three were used to death now, they had killed bandits that had tried to rob them, or other things. They had problems with it at first, but now they knew that it was a necessary evil. Well, that was fun to watch, said a new voice from the mist said as someone stepped into the kids' view. It was a short woman with long red hair, and two parts sticking up with a kiri headband on her forehead. With a baggy green pinstriped shirt, white obi, black baggy hakama-like pants, ninja sandals with blue leg warmers, and two unique swords on her back. Ringo Amayuri, Luna called with considerable fear in her voice. After all, she had read the bingo book, she knew what this woman was capable of. So you know who I am? Well then, what are you kiddies doing here? She asked while giving them a bloodthirsty smirk. We're here to become Kiri Ninja, got a problem bitch? Leave it to Akiza. Rings only smirked and said, I like you. And judging by how you took apart those flunkies, you seem strong enough, so let me burn these piles of shit and I'll take you to see Mizukage-sama. That's it? Naruto seemed confused. We just got done with a war, we need new blood. Now follow me, new meat. Ringo explained as she started walking away from the now burning corpses. The three looked at each other and decided to follow. After all, they wanted to be ninja, and one of the 7 ninja swordsmen talking to the Mizukage on their behalf was a big deal. Mizukage Tower. Of course you can join. The ever-bubbly Kage said with a closed-eye expression. Seriously? Just like that? No probationary period? No background? Luna asked the busty Kunoichi. Oh, I already know all about you, she said with a smile. What? How? Naruto asked alarmed. The Sandaime Hokage called in a favor to the Fire Daimyo who called in a favor to the Water Daimyo who called in a favor to me. And I had ninja who couldn't fight keep an eye on you sometimes. The Mizukage explained with a wink. Gigi. Naruto groaned lowly with a deadpan expression. Well, anyway, you kids can take these. The Mizukage said as she tossed them some kiri headbands. Naruto tied his onto his waist. Akiza put it on over her choker, and Luna put hers on her arm. I'll show you around the village later. In the meantime, Rin-chan can get you settled. You can stay with me until you earn enough money to get a place of your own. She gave them a caring smile. I promise, you three have a home here. 1 week later, Kirigakure. Naruto, Luna, and Akiza had been in the village for a week and they were already feeling at home. One thing though the Mizukage, or Mei, as she liked to be called, didn't mention to them was that she only had one other bedroom set up, and it only had a king-sized bed. Naruto didn't complain, neither did Luna, and Akiza nearly squeezed the life out of Mei with a hug. Another thing was that the three were now a genin team with Ringo as their sensei. Speaking of Ringo, she and Akiza got along a little too well. Naruto had picked up some useful sword skills from her, and a few on dual wielding. Luna had learned how to be more effective in a fight and keep cool under pressure. And as it stands, the four were standing in the Mizukage's office, ready to receive their first mission. Alright you four, it's time for your first mission, she said. Finally some damn action. Kurama raged from the seal. Hush you, Yubel commented. What's our mission, boss lady? Ringo asked her best friend. At this, Mei took on a more serious face, something that the team did as well. We have recently learned that Nami no Kuni has been taken over by a tyrant named Gato. A resident of Wave came to us with this information, and you are to protect her and her family, as well as assassinating Gato if given the chance. She has told me that her father is building a bridge that will break Nami free from Gato's control. Make sure that this bridge is completed. This is an A- rank mission, do you accept? Hi, Mizukage-sama, Mei smiled. Good, ow. Bring in the client. In walked a pretty dark-haired woman and a small boy. Hello, my name is Tsunami, and this is my son, Inari. My father went to buy some more supplies, so I decided to hire some protection. Then, Inari spoke up. They're just going to die. They can't beat Gato. The team could see that the kid was hurt pretty bad, probably lost someone to Gato. Mei then spoke up. I don't know. They might surprise you, Tilda. Quote. And so they left for Nami, with the newly christened Team Black Garden, left with Tsunami and Inari in tow. The ninja were busy telling Inari about feats they accomplished, and he was starting to perk up more and more. Nami no Kuni, Tsunami's house. After a few days of traveling, the group had arrived at Tsunami's house. On the way, Tsunami had told them about what happened to Kaiza, and why Inari was so disillusioned when it came to heroes until he met them. They had arrived and found that Tsunami's house was actually an old inn. Anyway, Naruto had just finished setting a few sinister serpents around outside to keep watch. And he didn't know why, but he had a bad feeling about this mission. About a mile away, Anko Mitarashi was having a bad day. First, her team, Team 8 consisting of Sakura, Ino, and Hinata, Shippuden outfits, had been given their first C rank after graduating the academy. They just had to protect a bridge builder. But then it all went downhill from there. First they had ran into the demon brothers, then, she sent for backup. Then they had been attacked by Zabuza Momochi, then she had been trapped by said ninja. Thank Kami that Kushina and the triplets, Team 11, had shown up. Then Zabuza had been killed by a hunter nin. Kushina was wearing her regular Junin attire. Menma still looked like a mini Minato. He had on a green t-shirt, a white hoodie, his headband on his forehead, and black ninja sandals and anbu pants, with a katana on his back. Nozomi had her red hair in a high ponytail, half-lidded blue eyes. She was wearing a red kimono with bare shoulders and biker shorts, with a ninjutsu on her back, and black high-heeled sandals. Natsumi was wearing a blue belly shirt, a white jacket that came down to just below her bust, a black short skirt with biker shorts underneath, a tanto on her hip, blue sandals, with her blonde, slightly spiky hair going down to her thighs and violet eyes sparkling. Back to Anko, now she was nearly passed out and being supported by Sakura and Ino, while Tazuna was showing them the way to his house. Sakura and Ino were arguing over Sasuke again. Hinata was being shy as Menma tried to be suave with her. Kushina was talking to Tazuna, and the triplets were in a triangle formation around them all. Anko sometimes cursed getting this team. She had been stuck with the three girls because the Hokage thought that having two confident girls with Hinata would break the girl out of her shell, and that being away from Sasuke would help Sakura and Ino. Plus having a competent kunoichi as their sensei would motivate them. Kurenai had been pissed that she didn't get the team she wanted, and Anko didn't want to be a sensei, so they had tried getting the team moved to Kurenai, but the Hokage wouldn't have it. It wasn't Anko's fault, she was stronger than her bestie. She just couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was going to be even more trouble. Tazuna's house. Tsunami opened the door to see her father, and a group of Konoha ninja. Great. Oh, hi Dad, you hired ninja. I thought that you were just getting supplies. Tazuna got a sheepish grin and said, well, I didn't want you to worry. Why? Is it a problem? Well, it might be, you see. I hired ninja too. The Konoha teams stopped and stood there. Finally Kushina asked, from where? Tsunami responded with, Kiri, I thought that since the war was over, then they could send us some help. Anko sighed. Well, we might as well meet them. I mean, we're going to have to work together. Well, Ringo said stepping into view. If it ain't the red bitch and her litter. Oh, great. As if Zabuza wasn't bad enough. Kushina moaned. Zabu-chan's here too? Ringo's grin only widened. Great, now I can drag his dumb ass back after the bridge is done. Now come on in and meet some real genin. She said as she turned and walked back to the living room. So they all went in and met Ringo's team, a bit miffed at her comment. And what they saw surprised them. So you can seriously pull out a man's pancreas through his tear duct? Akiza asked Luna. Yep, it'd be difficult, but it's possible. Luna responded. Two seriously beautiful girls. Then they noticed the new arrivals, and Luna had to mentally restrain Akiza from attacking four of them. Naruto was currently upstairs placing cards around the house, but he had surely sensed them by now. And after doing the introductions, they were all sitting around the dining room. Luna and Akiza were sitting on a couch while everyone else was at the table. Meanwhile, Menma was trying to come up with a way to suavely hit on the two girls. After all, he needed to take multiple wives to restore his clans. They all could feel the power on the girls. Menma decided to try something simple. So, how would you two like to? I'm sorry, we're not interested. Luna cut him off. Buzz off, pretty boy. Two guesses who that was. Nozomi and Natsumi would have defended their brother, but after seeing so many fangirls at the academy and around the village, it was nice to see fellow kunoichi. Kushina, not so much. And what the hell is wrong with my son? Akiza responded with, how about the fact that he looks I should be squealing in joy at his mere presence? Ringo was watching like her favorite show was on. Kushina was about ready to pounce. Why you little? Now, let's all at least try to get along. said the black-armored genin as he descended the steps. He then looked over to the Konoha girls. "Hello there," he said as he glided his way toward them. Nozomi and Natsumi were preparing for the crappy pickup lines that they had heard countless times before, that is until he walked straight past them without even looking at them. The Konoha teams all looked with wide eyes as he took Sakura's, Ino's, and Hinata's hands and kissed them one by one through the mask. "My name is Haumoto, and what are your names, my dears?" The girls couldn't believe it. Naruto-kun was here. They just watched as he walked towards them, and secretly took pleasure in seeing the namikaze bitches' faces. Then when he got to them and talked to them, "I think I just lost my virginity," Sakura said in her mind. After hearing his voice and seeing him in person after years, she was barely able to stand. Then she remembered that they were supposed to act like they didn't know each other. Hi, I'm Sakura Haruno," she said with a blush. "So hot. Must not jump," Ino thought with a considerable amount of strain. "Hello Tilda, Ino Yamanaka at your service." "Don't faint, please don't faint," Hinata pleaded with an atomic blush on her face. "Nice to meet you. I'm Hinata Hyuga." This was the first time in years that Hinata's stutter was completely real. The Konoha ninja couldn't believe what they were seeing. Not only had someone not hit on Nozomi or Natsumi, but the girls seemed flustered by him. Menma was pissed. He had been trying to get that close to Hinata for years. He had a crush on her ever since he saw her at the first day of the academy. Now this guy came in and got that close to her without being hit by one of her reflex Juken strikes. Yes, Menma. It's totally a reflex. Not to mention that he had two hardcore Sasuke fangirls blushing and flustered. This was a sign of the apocalypse. "I hope that we can all get along until the mission is over," Naruto said as he walked over to the couch that his teammates were sitting on and plopped down in between them as they cuddled up to his sides, something that earned everyone's attention, but nobody commented. Speaking of Zabu-chan, how's he doing? Ringo decided to ask. He's dead, Menma said, looking like he had done it himself. Ringo looked surprised at this. Seriously? How'd he die? A hunter nin got him with a couple of senbon to the neck, then took the body away. Sakura said, while hoping to Kami that this would get her damned teammates to start thinking more. Pretending to be a fangirl was getting harder and harder with how the triplets thought they were Kami's gifts to the nations. Not so much the girls, but Menma was insufferable, and his mother doing nothing to stop it. He's alive. Alive, totally alive. What do they teach at the Konoha Academy? Everything but how to be a ninja. In order: Luna, Ringo, Naruto, and Akiza. What do you mean? Nozomi asked, already not liking Akiza, and still miffed about what Naruto did. When I address him, it'll be Naruto, but when anyone who doesn't know his real name does, they'll call him Hao. Senbon are used for hitting pressure points. It's more likely that the hunter nin was a fake working for Zabuza, and just put him into a death-like state to take him away. You did know something was up when the hunter took the body away instead of burning it, right? Luna told them, while thinking that Konoha had really gone downhill in the past few years. Their silence was her answer. Well, then, Ringo seemed like she had a devious idea. We should establish which team gets to assume command of this joint mission. I propose a little fight. Ha, our sensei will kick your ass, Natsumi claimed enthusiastically. Oh, no, not between us. Ringo's grin only got wider. I say our genin decide it. 3 one-on-one matches, I'll even let you choose who fights who. Not that it'll matter. Hell yeah, bring it on. Natsumi accepted for them. Why not? Could be fun. Anko consented. Kushina meanwhile was thinking about how fun seeing Ringo's defeated face would be when her kids destroyed her genin. Tazuna Ust took out a new bottle of sake. I think I'll need this now. Tsunami however smacked him with a frying pan and said, not today too-san. This is your punishment for lying to me about where you were going. Inari only leaned over to Naruto. Ka-chan can be scary when she wants to be. Anko walked up to the father-daughter duo. Can I have it? Later, out in the forest. The first match will be Luna versus Natsumi. Ino said, acting as the referee. Are both fighters ready? She asked, receiving a nod from both girls. Hajime. Natsumi started off by rushing Luna at average speed, thinking that she would win easily. Then she started to slow down. Where did this headache come from? She wondered as the splitting pain made her stop and hold her head. Meanwhile Luna was thinking about her opponent. No mental defenses at all, that's just idiotic. They must think that nobody but their Yamanaka clan can use mental techniques. Wow, looks like Konoha has started getting arrogant. She then realized that her opponent was passed out. Again, wow. With the spectators, what the fuck just happened? Menma so eloquently put it. Well, looks like you don't even bother training your genin's mental defenses. How sad. Ringo taunted with a smirk. Mental defense? The rest of the Konoha group thought. Field. Nozomi stepped into the ring with Akiza, both with smirks on their faces. Ino then asked, "Are both fighters ready?" Again receiving a pair of nods. Hajime. Akiza decided to start off by pointing two of her fingers at the ground beneath Nozomi and bringing them up to point at her. Then, a thin pillar of rock shot up and nailed Nozomi right in the chin. As Nozomi was in the air, she regained her bearings and went through a few hand signs, water style, gunshot jutsu. She called out and shot a large ball of water at Akiza, who merely stomped her foot and watched as a wall of earth came up to block the water. As the wall receded, Akiza saw that Nozomi was clinging to the side of a tree with chakra and smirked devilishly. Wood style. Binding tree jutsu. Akiza called out as the tree came to life and bound Nozomi to its trunk. Mokuton. It can't be. Nozomi thought before another branch smacked her in the side of her head and knocked her out. Spectators. Well, look at that, 2 down. Ringo said, not sounding surprised in the least. And that means that we have command. How in the fuck does that girl have Mokuton? A shocked Kushina yelled as she tried to pick up her jaw from the ground. Not just from the Mokuton, but also that 2 of Konoha's supposed Miracle 3 had been curb stomped. Ringo gave her a deadpan look. "Oh sure. Let me explain my students' techniques to you in great detail," she said with a voice soaked in sarcasm. Kushina only stormed off while Anko was struggling to hold her laughter in. The next day, the 3 ninja teams were currently having breakfast. The girls, minus Nozomi, Natsumi, and Kushina, were talking animatedly amongst themselves, with Naruto joining in here and there, but he was mostly talking to Tazuna. One thing that confused Team 11 and Anko was the Sakura and Ino hadn't mentioned one thing about Sasuke, and Hinata was much more outgoing than usual. After everyone had finished, Ringo decided to speak. "Okay. Time to get everything squared away. We need someone to guard the old man. Who volunteers?" Kushina spoke up. "We will." Fine. Ringo didn't have a problem with that. It would give her more time to hunt down Zabu-chan. On a street in the village, the girls of Teams 8 and Black Garden were currently accompanying Tsunami and Inari to the market to buy some groceries. Team 11 plus Naruto was guarding the bridge, though Naruto was accompanying Tazuna to a store to get supplies, and lastly, Ringo and Anko were scouting around for Zabuza's or Gato's bases. The girls had stayed outside the store to keep watch and talk. "So," Ino asked as she leaned in to Akiza and Luna, "either of you know what Naruto looks like under that armor?" Akiza gave a smirk, hard 6-pack abs, thin wiry muscles, a face that looks like it was carved from stone, and based on what I've felt in the mornings when I sneak into his sleeping bag, he's huge. The girls took a minute to digest that. Luna was blushing, while Team 8 had to restrain themselves from drooling. Tsunami and Inari came out and they were about to leave before they heard a commotion coming from a few streets away. Tsunami had decided to check it out, so the rest went with her. When they arrived, they saw Tazuna staring at something while throwing his sake bottle away. A humongous buffet that people were flocking to, and of course, Naruto playing with some little kids while a bunch of small adorable monsters played with them too. A few minutes earlier, with Naruto and Tazuna. Naruto and Tazuna had been looking around for an hour before they found a store that still had the supplies they wanted. Naruto felt someone trying to take one of his card cases. He whipped around and saw a small girl with a scared look in her eyes. Naruto looked around and saw a bunch of other kids watching from hiding places. He knelt down and placed his hand on the girl's head. She flinched as if expecting him to hurt her, but Naruto only gave her a smile and took out a card from one of his cases. It had a cartoonish picture of a huge buffet in a castle hall. "You look hungry. How would you and your friends like to have all you can eat?" The girl looked up at him with confusion. Naruto only held up the card and said, "Spell, Royal Banquet." The card glowed and exploded in light. When it cleared, there was a massive buffet table in the center of the street. There was enough food to feed an army. Naruto was smiling as everyone ran to get their fill, and on a darker note, He was silently waiting for his chance to make Gato suffer for this. Naruto blinked as that entered his head. A side effect of his power was that he sometimes had dark impulses go through his head. Every element had personality traits attached, and darkness had violence and anger. He usually pushed them aside, but there were some that were like a screaming voice in his head. Darkness was dangerous, even to its king. He also thought about his card abilities. He could play a spell one of two ways. He could either only activate their effects, or he could summon what was on the card. Like he'd done with the banquet. Speaking of summoning, he saw that the kids were happily eating their fill. He thought that they would need something else to cheer them up. So, he took out some more cards and said, "Summon. Kuribo, Kuribon, Winged Kuribo, Hanewata." He then watched as the 4 small monsters popped out of their cards and waddled over to the kids. They were a little afraid at first, until Kuribo tripped on his own feet. After the kids had a good laugh, they started playing with the monsters. It was a few minutes later that Naruto found himself telling stories to the kids, and some older people too. He decided to tell them Yugi's story. He had just gotten done with Duelist Kingdom when he saw the girls walk around the corner and spot him. He waved to them and eventually everything turned into a big festival. A few hours later, Naruto stood off to the side as the last of the buffet was finished off. Everyone in Wave had turned up. Plus Team 11 along with Ringo and Anko, who were currently passed out on the floor. Thankfully Naruto had more than enough chakra to replenish the table many times. It was then that he heard an upbeat and bubbly voice speak up beside him. "That was a nice thing you did, Naru-chan." Naruto nearly jumped out of his skin as he turned to look at the blue and pink-clad spirit. "When did you pop up, Mana-chan?" The once most famous female in Duel Monsters merely giggled and stuck her tongue out at him. "You know that I never reveal my secrets." Naruto sighed at the dark magician girl's antics. They had met when Naruto was going through his cards. They had become fast friends. She had decided to go by Mana since Dark Magician Girl was a lot to say. She had said that the pharaoh's childhood friend was named that, and she and DMG looked scarily alike. "You know, for the king of all things shadow and darkness, you're a really nice guy, Naru-chan." Mana commented with a finger on her chin as she started to float up. Naruto only gave her a look and said, "I may be the king of darkness, but I'm not evil, or unfeeling. These people have had their lives turned upside down. I wanted to cheer them up. So sue me." Mana just started to go back to her card, but before she did, she gave Naruto a kiss on the cheek and said, "Naruto, you're destined for great things, and I want you to know that I and my fellow spirits will stand by you to the end. By the way, is it just me, or would your BlueNet friend become insta-besties with Kasara?" With that, Mana was back in her card. Naruto stood there looking at the ground for a minute before shaking his head. With that thought, time to head back to the house. Naruto was walking down the street before he heard someone jogging up beside him. He had to restrain himself from giving in to the dark impulses and hurting her. "Mind if I walk back with you, Moto-san?" The kimono-clad Namikaze sister asked with a small smile. Naruto had pushed his impulses back and thought about it. She might have been horrible to him when they were kids, but he wasn't going to kill her for it, not at all. They were walking for a few minutes before Nozomi spoke up. "I don't understand you." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "What about me confuses you?" She seemed different from the last time he saw her. "You have an air of darkness and foreboding around you, but people seem naturally drawn to you. You put on that huge buffet for no reason, and you have abilities like nothing I've ever seen. Lastly, you seem familiar to me in some way. I didn't put on that buffet for no reason. Those people needed help. Should I have had any other reason?" Nozomi gained a sad smile on her face. "I wish I was that compassionate. Maybe if I was, he would still." Naruto only looked at her. "Something on your mind?" Nozomi snapped out of her mood as they made it back to the house. "It's nothing, sorry to bother you," she said as she walked up to the room she shared with her sister, mother, and brother. Naruto stood in the dining room and stared at the top of the stairs. Could she have been talking about me? Not likely, he thought as he walked up to his team's own room. Before he got to sleep, he heard the door open and saw Akiza and Luna come in. Akiza spoke first. "We saw her go after you. Are you okay, Naru-koi?" Luna followed up as she started getting ready for bed. "Did she say anything?" Naruto turned his back to give them some privacy. "Nothing to set me off. I think she noticed that I was gone though." Akiza seemed surprised. "Really? Didn't you say that she was a major bitch when you were kids?" Yeah, she was. That's what confuses me. Luna gave him a peck on the cheek and said, "It's okay, we're right here." Team 11's room, later that night. Nozomi lay awake in her room as her siblings slept away. They had come back a while before. She was thinking about what had happened at home a few years before, when she and her sister had discovered that their brother was gone. Flashback. A month after Naruto left Konoha. Nozomi and Natsumi were worried. They hadn't even seen their niece Sama in an entire month. They acted like they didn't care about him, but they loved him just as much as the rest of the family. They had thought that by being mean to him that they could motivate him to show their parents how awesome he was. He had always been the best at their games until they had started using their training, yet another plan to get him motivated. Though Menma was just doing it to be mean. It was nowhere near perfect, but they were 5 when they started. They couldn't think of anything else. Anyway, the two were standing outside his room in the house. They were about to knock on his door and ask how he was. The two were worried that he is all alone in there, and they had decided to drop their stupid plan and give their niece Sama the love he deserved. Sorry girls, too late. They knocked on his door and waited for an answer. When they didn't get one, they knocked again and Natsumi called out, "Niece Sama?" They looked at each other and decided to go in, so they pushed the door open and walked into darkness. As their eyes adjusted, they looked around and saw that the windows were blocked with blackout curtains. It was nearly pitch black. The only light was coming from the sunlight streaming in from the open door. They scoured every inch that they could see for the blonde, but they never found him. So they ran out into the backyard screaming, "Niece Sama's gone." When they reached the yard, their parents were looking at them in confusion, and their brother just gave a huff. Their father said, "What are you two talking about? Menma-chan's right here." Kushina gave an amused smile and the three walked past the girls toward the kitchen. "Come on you two, it's time for lunch." The girls shared a confused look as Natsumi spoke up. Tu-chan and Ka-chan didn't forget about Nisan, did they? Nozomi just got more downtrodden. I guess they did. They shared a moment in silence before looking into each other's eyes and proclaiming in sync, "We'll just find him and bring him home." Before they went back into the house, they didn't tell their parents because they knew that Naruto wouldn't want them to, so they vowed to find their niece Sama and make up for their horrible mistakes. Flashback. End. Nozomi sighed as she replayed that day in her head for what felt like the 1000th time. She looked over at her sister to find Natsumi staring at her. Natsumi said, "Thinking about that day again?" Nozomi nodded her head and asked, "Do you think that we'll ever find him?" They looked at each other and said with the synchronicity that they were known for, "Definitely." So the sisters went back to sleep, not knowing that their mother had heard everything, and that the wheels in her head were turning. She thought that they meant an old friend, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to get a rude awakening that would turn her world upside down. The next day, Naruto sighed as he walked through the woods around the village. He had nothing to do today. He had set some serpents around the inn. Team 11 was watching Tazuna and the bridge, and Ringo, Anko and the girls were off scouting for Gato's base and gathering information. Naruto walked into a clearing and saw that he wasn't alone in the woods. There was also a girl there. She had long black hair, pale skin, brown eyes, and was wearing a pink sleeveless yukata. She noticed him and gave him a smile, though Naruto noticed that her eyes widened a fraction at the sight of his headband. "Hello there." Naruto responded in kind. "Hello, I'm sorry, I didn't know anyone was here. I'll leave you be." "Oh, you don't have to do that, I'm just gathering herbs." Naruto knelt down. "Would you like some help?" Shaw gave another smile. "Thank you, I would appreciate it." They gathered the herbs in silence, and when they were done, the sun had started to set. "Well, it was nice to meet you. My name is Haumoto, by the way," Naruto said as he extended his hand. She smiled and shook his hand. "Haku, no surname." Naruto smiled under his mask as he started to walk away. "I hope to see you again sometime, Haku-san." She stood for a minute before speaking. "Hau-san, why do you fight?" Naruto stopped, thought about it, and turned to look at her. "I used to fight to prove my strength, but now I fight to ensure that those I care about are safe." Haku looked him in the eye. "I believe that when someone has something to protect, then they become truly strong." "What do you think, Hau-san?" Naruto matched her look with his own. "I believe that you have the right idea, Haku-chan," he said as he walked away. Haku blushed at the affectionate suffix before hurrying back to Zabuza. A few days later, the bridge. The week had passed much the same as it had that day. Team 11 watched Tazuna, the girls scouted, and Naruto wandered. He had ran into Haku a few more times, and he had become very good friends with her. They had very much in common, like being very calm, cold to a point, and their similar views. Right now, everyone was on the bridge waiting for Zabuza to show up. And show up he did as a mist rolled over the bridge and his deep menacing voice echoed out of the mist. Well, some more little. Kai, Ringo said with a deadpan look. The mist cleared to show a baffled Zabuza and a masked hunter Nin with a sweat drop on her face. It was then that he noticed his old comrade, Ringo. What the hell are you doing here? Shouldn't you be fighting? Ringo still had the deadpan look. The war is over. Zabuza and his apprentice stopped. What? The swordsman squeaked out. Ringo shook her head and said, the war is over, dumbass. Mei is Mizukage, Yagur is dead, and it's time for you to come back. Zabuza stood frozen for a minute before. Are you fucking kidding me? I spent years trying to raise money for the rebellion only to find out that it was over before I got back. He then proceeded to yell for about 10 minutes until he calmed down, with a goddamn pig. Ringo walked up to him and asked, get that out of your system? Yeah, then let's just wait for Gato to show up. He's probably on his way here with an army of thugs. So they waited, and waited, and waited. How long is this going to take? Menma yelled in frustration. Shut the hell up. Anko yelled as she threw her sake bottle at him. The hunter Nin had walked over to the genin and stood by them. Hello Haku, Naruto said as everyone looked at him in confusion. Haku took off her mask and looked at him. How did you know it was me? I have very strong sensing abilities, it was easy to recognize your chakra. Menma, at that moment decided to introduce himself. Hello there, how would you like to go out on the town so I can? No, Haku said while giving Menma a literal cold shoulder. Natsumi whistled in appreciation. Wow, that was cold. About a half hour later. They're here, Naruto said as he stood up. Everyone else quit what they were doing and got ready. Gato finally showed his face as he gloated. Well. Looks like you couldn't get the job done after all. He was going to continue before he noticed that they were all perfectly fine and glaring at him. Zabuza hefted his sword onto his shoulder and said, there's been a change in plans, Gato. Get ready for hell. Gato didn't lose any of his smug attitude. Kill them all, but leave the girls, we could use them. He said with a lecherous look on his face. That did it, the ninja charged while Naruto pulled out a card, gunning straight for Gato. Akiza started making hand signs as black trees sprouted out of the water and swept across the bridge, stabbing and killing any that got caught in their branches. Luna took a smaller approach, picking out ones in the crowd that were getting too close to someone, and crushing their minds, or using a well-placed senbon to a kill spot. The triplets ran around slicing thugs with their blades and throwing jutsu around. Kushina was using her sword and chains to kill any thugs that got near her, while Ringo and Zabuza were using their skills and Unowu weapons to completely destroy anyone in their way. Naruto was still headed for the cause of all this suffering. This time, I'll give in to my impulses. Play. Fairy Tale Fire Dragon vs Flame God. He held up the card, Spirit Call, Silva, Warlord of Dark World. As a dark figure that looked like it was out of a nightmare appeared over him, Naruto pulled out another spell, Celestial Sword, Ito's. This time, a sword nearly as long as his body appeared in his right hand. He turned it into a reverse grip as a silver blade appeared in a reverse grip in his other hand, the same as Silva's. Naruto ran at the poor fools who were in the way of his target, slicing through all the thugs that got in his way, never breaking eye contact with Gato. The tyrant got scared and tried to run, but Naruto stopped him with a tendril of shadow. Naruto's other blade disappeared as he grabbed Gato by his throat. Wait, I can give you anything. Money? Power? Anything, Gato said in a vain attempt to save himself. Naruto just looked him in the eye as he threw him down on the ground and raised his sword up. All I want is you dead. With that, he brought his sword down, slicing Gato's head clean off. He turned back to the rest of the thugs and released his dark power. He looked at them as his eyes changed to an empty gold. Not like normal, these eyes were devoid of emotion, compassion, and mercy. These were the eyes of a killer. You all die, by order of the king. Oh shit, this isn't going to be pretty. For once, we agree on something, furball. This is one time that I don't like seeing what Naruto does to his enemies with his power. Dark energy exploded from Naruto's form as an aura of darkness surrounded him in a sphere. Naruto brought his hand up and put his fingers in a snapping position. He snapped his fingers, and it was released. A curtain of darkness was expelled from his body. The thugs just stood frozen in fear as it overtook them. Some died of heart attacks right there, and others had their souls obliterated by the darkness. When is cleared, there were countless bodies on the bridge, killed by Naruto or the others, every single one dead. Naruto let his cards return to his cases as he returned to normal. Song end. It was then that the villagers showed up, armed with some weapons that they had scrounged from somewhere. Inari was leading the charge as he looked around the bridge. Are we late? A few days later, with Gato gone, the villagers had raided his base and taken their fair share of money, setting some aside to rebuild. Naruto had kept his distance for a while, letting the others come to terms with what they'd seen him do. Said King of Darkness was leaning up against a tree in a clearing. He was about to leave when he sensed 4 people coming toward him. He turned to see Hinata, Ino, Sakura, and Haku. Now in her yukata, they had come to find him to tell him that it was time for everyone to leave. They noticed his mood and Ino was the first to speak. Naru-kun. Are you okay? Naruto closed his eyes and said, I thought that you 3 would be afraid of me after what I'd done. Sakura walked up and gave him a light punch in the shoulder. Idiot. We might have been surprised, but we wouldn't leave just like that. Hinata came last, with a blush on her face. Naruto-kun. We care about you more than we can say, and to show you that. Hinata looked down and fidgeted until she jumped at him, hand taking his mask dune and her lips pressing against his. He was surprised at first, until he relented and wrapped his arms around her. It was a minute after that they separated. Naruto was going to say something but, me next. Ino yelled as she took her place, smashing her lips into his, and kissing him with much more passion and force. She seemed to be trying to meld herself with him. Sakura decided that Ino had enough as she pulled Ino back by her shoulders and kissed Naruto again. He had decided to go with it after Ino started mouth-raping him. A few minutes later, Naruto was finally free as the 3 had their fill and headed back, leaving him alone with Haku. Well, that was interesting, Haku said with a blush on her face. Naruto just got his feet under him and said, yeah, after a few years with Akiza you get used to it. Haku just smiled. That's good, she said as she grabbed his collar and pulled him down for a kiss. Now Naruto was surprised. He didn't expect this. Haku let him go and started to walk away with a little extra sway in her hips. Naruto just stood there for a minute before heading back. My life is complicated. You mean amazing? Shut up, pervert. Later, on the road to Kiri. After a tearful goodbye fro the villagers, and Naruto getting many glomps from the kids he had helped. Team Black Garden was on their way back to Kiri with Zabuza and Haku in tow. When everyone had heard about Haku kissing Naruto, the girls started an interrogation. Ringo started cackling, and Zabuza started flailing his sword around trying to castrate Naruto. Before Haku stopped him with a smack to the head. Mizukage's office, a few days later. Welcome back Zabu-chan, Mei exclaimed with her usual enthusiasm. Hi. Zabuza was not as excited. Mei took one last look at the mission report and looked at the assembled ninja. You all can go now. Zabuza, you'll find that your old house is still available. But, girls, could you stay here? You can too, Ringo, if you want, she said with a small glint in her eyes. Naruto and Zabuza were confused as they were literally pushed out of the office. As soon as the door were closed, Ringo started laughing as the blinks snapped shut and the lights dimmed. Akiza, Luna, and Haku looked to Mei and saw her hands folded and covering her mouth, with a serious look in her eyes. Listen up, you 3. The girls stood straight as Mei continued talking. I will be teaching you an ancient art, passed down through kunoichi since the time of the creation of ninja. This art is how to tease boys. Mei yelled as she lost all sense of seriousness. The girls had different reactions. Luna was blushing madly, Haku was confused, and Akiza had a blank face before it slowly twitched up into a twisted grin. At the Mizukage Manor, Naruto was sitting, going over his cards when he got a chill going down his spine. What was that? I have no idea, but Yubel is giggling like a schoolgirl and it's starting to freak me out. Kit, get me out of here. Naruto just shook his head. Whatever it was, he had a feeling that it involved the girls, so he wouldn't be able to avoid it anyway. He just hoped that he wouldn't be suffering. He has no idea, does he? Mei was currently walking down to the basement in an attempt to find Naruto. She had already told Akiza and Luna about the team meeting with Ringo the next day, now she just had to find him. She could tell he was meditating because of the air of darkness, fear, and bloodlust, but as a cage, it was more of a nuisance. She walked into the dojo to see Naruto sitting on the ground with his eyes closed as a shroud of wine-red chakra surrounded him, and a single chakra tail waving in the air behind him. Naruto's eyes opened up as the chakra dissipated, his eyes flickered for a second before settling on his usual gold. Mei walked up as Naruto stood. I came to tell you that there's a team meeting in my office tomorrow at noon. It's very important, so make sure that you're there on time. Naruto stretched and said, "Hi Mei-sama." He then started walking up to his room as Mei stayed in the dojo for a minute longer. She shook her head and closed her eyes. I wonder how they'll take it. It's not so much Naruto I'm worried about, he's a strong kid. The girls, however. Luna isn't a very confrontational person, and Akiza puts on a brave face, but she is far more fragile than she lets on. I guess I'll find out tomorrow. The next day, Mizukage's office. Team Black Garden was standing in front of the Mizukage as she pulled out a few papers. Ringo wasn't present, something that got the three confused. Mei suddenly spoke, I have called you three here for a very special reason. The Chunin exams are coming up. Before you say anything, let me explain why I'm making a big deal out of this. Every 25 years, the Chunin exams are far bigger. Chunin hopefuls go to an island far off the coast of the land of demons called Sen no Yumi, 1,000 Dreams. The next one is this year. This version of the exams is much more of a show than the others. Everyone will be watching, that means that all the higher-ups of each villages. At this she gave Akiza and a look, even the nobles from all over the nations. She then looked at Luna, you three understand what I'm saying, don't you? They did. Naruto had been prepared for this. He had known that his family would be there when he went to the exams, so he already resolved himself to go. He just hoped the girls would be okay. Akiza and Luna were thinking deeply. Mei had been telling them that Tsunade and Luna's parents and brother would almost definitely be there to see them. Akiza stepped forward, I'll go. It was only a bit of a surprise, she had been wanting payback for a while. Luna waited a bit before looking at her two teammates, who only gave her smiles. She stepped up, I'll go as well. Naruto smiled under his mask, well, looks like we're going Mizukage-sama. Mei gave them a smile, I expected nothing else. Now there is one other team eligible for the exams, they just got their sensei and third teammate. You can go meet them at Training Ground 20. Training Ground 20 a few minutes later. Team Black Garden had arrived to find Ringo in the middle of teasing Zabuza while Haku and two other girls stood off to the side. The two new girls spotted them and walked over to introduce themselves. Hello, you must be Team Black Garden. I'm Alexis Tenjoin, one of them said. She was a beautiful girl with long dirty blonde hair reaching down her back and curling slightly at the sides and amber eyes. She was wearing a very form-fitting lavender leotard with red flame designs, purple shoes and fingerless gloves, and a white skirt attached, with her headband worn as a belt. Cyber Blader outfit without the visor, back spikes, and skates, and the gloves are fingerless. I'm Team Izaki, it's nice to meet you. The other girl said. She had short reddish-brown hair and dark blue eyes. She was wearing a yellow sleeveless button-down shirt, a lightweight pink jacket, blue short shorts, white stockings, and heeled sandals. Like Tsunade's. After introducing themselves, they got to talking while Ringo and Zabuza bickered. Naruto started off, so, you two didn't have a sensei or teammate until we came back with Zabuza and Haku. T answered, yep, all the other genin ran off when the war started. We chose to stick with Mizukage-sama. She wouldn't let us fight, but we made ourselves useful in other ways. How was that? Luna asked. Alexis answered, I ran messages between the camps, I can be very fast when I want to. T worked as a medic, she's actually the most talented medic in generations. They spent the next few minutes talking before Ringo and Zabuza's arguing got too loud. T decided to stop them, for God's sake just kiss already. Everyone burst into laughter as Zabuza and Ringo separated faster than the Hiraishin. Zabuza started grumbling about having to deal with a team while Ringo decided to speak, glad to see you all decided to show up. Team Black Garden, meet Team Royal Heart. Akiza spoke up with a grin on her face, we already did that while your little lover's spat was happening. Ringo sputtered and Zabuza decided to take over, alright. This special form of the exams is called the quarter-century grand, but you kids are lucky. Why is that? Naruto asked. Ringo took over. This is the 8th QCG, which means that is a 100-year mark, a century grand tournament. When this happens, it's even bigger. Ninja from every village will be there to strut their stuff, as will people from all over the place. Even those who can't go will see them broadcast over every TV in the nations. This isn't just about becoming Chunin anymore. This is about showing how strong you really are to everyone, everywhere. The genin were excited and a bit nervous about the huge opportunity. This was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I remember the last one from when I was inside Mito. It's a pretty big deal. Kurama spoke up. Haku had a question. Zabuza-sama? When do we leave for this island? First, we go to another village for a meet and greet for a few days. After that's done, every contestant and their sensei leave for the nearest harbor to catch boats to the island. This year, the meet is in Konoha. Naruto and Akiza stiffened, something that Alexis and Teen noticed, before they relaxed and gave their sensei a determined look. Ringo got serious for a minute. You all need to be extra careful. There will be nations sending tons of teams, while you 6 are our only eligible teams. You'll be targets because of your small numbers. Naruto summed up everyone's thoughts in 3 words, bring them on. A few days later, a few miles from the Konoha gate, Teams Black Garden and Royal Heart were on their way to Konoha. They had just spotted the gate in the distance, and they each had different reactions. Team Royal Heart was a bit nervous, but they got over it, and Haku was nervous for her friends. Naruto was conflicted. He was about to be back in a place that he hated, but at the same time, there were people and places in there that he couldn't wait to see again. Akiza felt a small sense of pride. No matter what anybody said, she was proud to be a Senju. She was proud that she had the blood of some of the best ninja in history in her veins. It was just the supposed last Senju that she had a problem with. Luna was only worried for her friends, and wondering if her former family was in there. They had arrived at the gate and were stopped by the gate guards. Zabuza stepped forward. 2 teams from Kirigakure here for the Chunin exams. One of them, a man with wild hair and bandages, took their forms and looked them over. So, you guys just here early? When are the rest of the Kiri teams coming? As they walked by, Ringo said, it's just us. Katetsu and Azumo shared a look. 2 teams? That's it? Katetsu asked. Azumo shrugged his shoulders. I guess, their funeral. A few hours later, Naruto was out wandering. He walked around the streets of Konoha, ignoring the looks he was receiving from the villagers. As he walked, he noticed genin from all over. So far he saw Kumo, Iwa, Suna, Taki, Kusa, Nadeshiko, Aim, Getsu, Hoshi, Yugakure, Yuki, and even a new sound village. There was going to be some stiff competition. He was walking around before he heard something. Hey! Let go of him. It sounded like a small girl yelling, so he followed it and found a Suna genin holding a small boy up by the front of his shirt. It looked like he was about to hit the kid. He continued looking around and saw Nozomi, Natsumi, Sasuke, another boy with fang tattoos and a big dog, a boy with an emotionless face and a scroll on his back, and another Suna genin, a girl. Then the girl spoke, just put the brat down, Konkuro, we don't have time for this. The now named Konkuro answered, no way Tamari, the brat ran into me, so I'm gonna teach him a lesson. He said as he tried to hit the kid. Emphasis on tried. He found his fist hitting metal as Naruto had appeared next to him and caught his fist. What? Naruto pushed him back and let the kid down. Picking on little kids isn't nice. Now I suggest you leave before I make you. The kids were in awe of his coolness. Nozomi and Natsumi were surprised. Sai was being Sai. Kiba and Sasuke were angry that someone had stolen their thunder. And Konkuro was livid as he took off the bandaged object from his back. Let's see how you like this. Tamari got worried. Are you crazy? Put it away. Konkuro, you're an embarrassment to the village. Suddenly, a skinny red-headed boy appeared in a swirl of sand. Konkuro was scared as he said, Bibit gar they. Shut up, or I'll kill you. The others were surprised at his way of speaking to his teammates. Gaara turned to look at Naruto and asked, you in the armor, what is your name? Naruto stared him in the eyes and said, Haumoto, it's nice to meet you, number 1. Everyone was confused as Konkuro and Tamari were shocked. Gaara just got a bloodthirsty grin on his face. I look forward to seeing you in the exams. Kankuro, Tamari, we're leaving. With that, the Suna ninja left. Damn raccoon, always being a brat. Family problems Fuzzy? Shut it dragon lady. Naruto looked back to the Konoha ninja plus children and asked, are you all alright? Sasuke decided to speak up, I had it under control, there was no need for you to interfere. He said with a glare. Naruto didn't flinch a bit, I see. It was part of your plan to stand there like an idiot while a foreign ninja assaulted a child? Great plan. Sasuke fumed while Kiba laughed, and the twins finally snapped out of their shock. I take it you and your team are here for the exams, Hao-san. Nozomi said. Natsumi piped up, you'd better have kept training. I know we did. Naruto just started walking to the hotel, I'm sure that you did. But I hope it was enough. He still didn't like spending any more time around them than he had to. Kiba watched the Kiri-nin leave, that guy was tough, how do you know that guy? Natsumi answered, we met on our mission to Wave. He's pretty cool. Nozomi decided to tease Kiba a bit, yeah. He even made Hinata blush like a tomato within a few seconds. And like that, Naruto made Kiba's list. Naruto continued walking as he sensed something. It was Akiza. He had a feeling he knew what she was doing, he only hoped she did. With Akiza, Clan District. Akiza was in the Clan District, a deserted section, and was standing in front of a place that she had been thinking about for years. The Senju compound. She had just dropped by the hospital with a bit of a vindictive gift for Tsunade. She had pretended to be a messenger with a package for her and left it with the front desk. The receptionist had told her that Tsunade and Shizune were swamped and wouldn't be done for a while, so she made her way to the Senju compound. Akiza was planning to get in, grab the Shodem Hokage's scroll on Mokuton, and get out. So she bit her finger and wiped her blood on the gate. She watched as a seal array appeared on the gate and it swung open slowly. Akiza walked in and headed to the main house. She walked in and headed for the shrine in the back of the house. She had overheard Tsunade and Shizune talking about this place when she was little. How Hashirama had hidden his scroll in a secret room in the clan house, a room that cut off all chakra except Mokuton, and only activated with Senju blood. Akiza found the secret passage and descended into the dark. As her eyes adjusted, she saw that she was in a large marble room, with dirt, grass, and a few seedlings on the floor, seals all along the walls, and on the ceiling. A statue of a wooden dragon with the scroll in its mouth. Konoha Hospital. Tsunade had just gotten done with an incredibly complicated surgery. It would have taken much longer, but one of Shizune's patients had turned out to be a false alarm, meaning she could help Tsunade with the surgery, leading to it getting done much faster. She was currently walking with Shizune out of the hospital when the receptionist called her over. Tsunade-sama, said woman, and her apprentice walked over. This package came for you. A messenger delivered it about an hour ago. A messenger? Shizune asked. Was it the usual one? The receptionist thought. Nope, it was a girl. She had maroon hair and brown eyes. She was a very beautiful girl. She had a body that made me think she would be a rival to you later on, Tsunade-sama. Really? Tsunade asked as she opened up the small box. Inside was a small piece of paper. Tsunade unfolded it. Her blood ran cold. She dropped the box in shock, a look of fear on her face as she stood frozen. Tsunade-sama? Shizune cried, concerned as she looked at her master. She looked over Tsunade's shoulder to read the paper, and she was no better than Tsunade. On the paper were 5 simple words, but for Tsunade and Shizune, each word was like a kunai to the heart. Hello mama, I'm home. Akiza. Senju compound. Akiza walked over to the center of the room and used a kunai to prick each of her fingers, along with putting a gash on her hand. She went through a few hand signs, slammed the bleeding hand onto the ground, and placed the other in front of her face in a ram sign. Mokuton. Nativity of a world of trees. The seedlings started to grow as they stretched up to the ceiling. Akiza manipulated them to grab the scroll and bring it down to her. She stood up, bandaging her hand. Once it was all bandaged, she took the scroll and started walking out of the compound. The scroll was quite big, about the same size as a summoning contract. The borders had traditional drawings of a lush green forest. As she turned the corner, she missed Tsunade and Shizune arriving and rushing into the compound. The next morning, hotel. A certain king of darkness was thinking about how Akiza had shown up in their room with a giant scroll. She had done it. T had been curious when Akiza asked her to heal her hand, but T had seen the look on Akiza's face and decided not to ask. Naruto sighed as he walked down the hall of the hotel to the bathrooms. As it turned out, the Leaf Ninja were staying at the hotel as well. To keep the whole meet and greet air, he was currently wearing only his black pajama pants, face mask, and one glove to cover his signer mark. He went to the showers and washed up. He hadn't seen anyone, and he thought that would stay true except he ran into someone after putting his clothes back on. Ah! Naruto looked down as he heard the cry. He saw a girl with brown hair reaching a little past her shoulders and gray eyes. She was wearing a white robe that the hotel left in each room, and she had a ribbon in her hand, and another in her teeth. Naruto held his hand out and said, "Sorry about that, I wasn't paying attention." She took his hand and stood up, talking as she fixed her hair. "No problem, I wasn't watching either. My name's Tenten Higurashi, what's yours?" "Haumoto, it's nice to meet you, Tenten-san." Naruto watched as she put her hair in two small buns, like panda ears, with practiced ease. "You look like you've had a lot of practice at that." She laughed a bit as she finished. "Yep, I've had a lot of practice." She trailed off near the end, and it took Naruto a minute to figure out that she was staring at his chest. He was used to it by now, and he decided to tease little. "I thought it was the men who got into trouble for looking too much." Tenten realized what she was doing and sputtered a bit. Naruto chuckled and walked back to his room. "I'm just playing with you, Tenten-san. See you in the exams." Later that day, on a boat to Sen no Yumi. All the Chunin hopefuls had been placed on the boats a few hours before. The boats were special. They had seals on the bottom and on the sails to dramatically increase their speed. They would arrive at the island near sunset. Naruto was watching the waves with Akiza, Luna, Alexis, T, and Haku. They were broken out of their daydreams by Ringo and Zabuza calling them down to the hold. Every village got their own ship, no matter how many teams they had. The genin arrived to find their sensei waiting with dark grins on their faces. "Okay, brats." Zabuza started off. "We need to prepare you for when we arrive." "What do you mean?" Alexis asked with a little fear in her voice. Ringo answered with a savage grin. "When we told you it was more show, we meant it. That means an opening ceremony. You kids will be paraded out like trophies. It's so the potential clients can get a glimpse of you and start making bets on who's gonna pass, or even survive." The genin groaned as Zabuza pulled a curtain and shower racks upon racks of clothes. "Here are your choices. Pick wisely. You want to look good for the masses. The genin suffered as they started picking through the clothes looking for something for them to wear. It was at least an hour later that they had chosen their outfits. Naruto was wearing a classic form-fitting red button-down shirt, black suit vest, black slacks, black leather dress shoes and black tie. Akiza had a blood-red strapless dress with a slid-down one leg and white elbow-length gloves, and red heels. Luna wore a cream-colored Victorian-style dress with all the frills and cuffs, and matching heels. Haku wore an ice blue formal kimono with a dark blue obi tied into a large bow in the back, and tabi sandals. T picked out a light pink cocktail dress with a puffy skirt that was longer in the back, with heels. I don't know dress terms. Alexis was last in a lace, one-sleeved little black dress with an open back, and black stilettos. Ringo looked them over and nodded before changing some things. She walked over to Haku and pulled the kimono of her shoulders so some cleavage was showing. She walked over to Luna and pulled down the dress chest area, which Luna had pulled up, and she walked back into the racks and came out with a wine-red cape that she threw over Naruto's shoulders. It had a small collar that covered his mouth from the side and draped regally over his shoulders, fastened together with a golden chain on the front. Yubel was judging from her card. "Not bad. You all look amazing. Damn it, kid, if you don't make those other three yours." "Zip it, pervert. Jealous?" Ringo looked them over one last time before she said, "Perfect." Zabuza chuckled a bit. "There's May's influence." Ringo grit her teeth and growled, "What? I can't be a big girly when I want to be." Zabuza laughed before commenting, "At least I don't have any critiques." They all stared at him. Haku should not be showing so much skin. Cover her up. Zabuza finally exploded. "She needs to show some skin to get their attention, idiot." Ringo yelled back. Their genin watched as they argued again. Luna spoke up, "Why can't they just say it?" Naruto gave her a look. "Say what?" Luna sighed. "They project their thoughts without knowing it. They have it bad for each other but they're too tough to admit that they have feelings." Alexis smiled like she had won the lottery. "Ladies, huddle up," she said as the girls got into a huddle and started whispering. Naruto only backed away. Sunset, docks of Sen no Yumi. For the island, just imagine a bigger version of the island from Naruto. Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolutions. Okay, Ringo said as she walked up from the registration booth, we are last, since we have the least teams. It's going to be girls first, boys second, so Naruto, you're going last out of all the genin, and alone when you walk down. You okay with that? Naruto shrugged, he was used to being stared at, walking around in armor everywhere would do that to you. Ringo looked at Akiza and asked in a low voice, Akiza, I saw your registration paper, are you sure you want to do that? Everyone looked at Akiza with confusion as she said, absolutely. Ringo gave her a serious look and said, fine, but I hope you're prepared for the consequences. Everyone decided that it was a personal matter and dropped it. Zabuza decided to explain the actual procedure. Here's what's going to happen. You wait until they call our village. Then you walk out as your names are called. Once everyone is done, the closing remarks will begin. Ringo stepped in at this. When we say walking down, you're going to start at the top of a flight of stairs and walk down until you get to a regular catwalk-style path. You'll walk until the end and bow before heading out at the other end. Luna sighed and sat down on a bench. We might as well sit down, we're going to be waiting for a while. Ringo snapped her fingers as she remembered something. By the way, Luna, May told me that she filled in your family name with hers. Also, you kids probably won't see us until you get back on the boat. Luna nodded and they all sat down to wait. About an hour later, the genin were all lined up to walk. They had gotten a glimpse of the path. They walked out a half-dome-shaped entrance and walked down the stairs, about 3 floors worth. The entire path was wide enough for 10 people to walk down side by side. And then came the path on the ground, the length of a city block and a half, before a raised dais that was clearly for the bow, and finally, the exit out a gate like the entrance. There were fireworks lighting up the night. The carpets were golden velvet with a red carpet in the center to walk on. Lights flooding the path, and cameras flashing, a band playing music. Stands on either side of the path filled with cheering fans, betting nobles, judging daimyos, and even the cages and village councils, not to mention every active ninja, sensei or not. They had watched the other genin walk from the monitor in the waiting room. Hinata was wearing a sleeveless, black yukata, Ino was in a tight, sleeveless, little black dress, and Sakura was wearing a red and gold Chinese-style dress, all 3 in heels. They listened as the commentators, Kai, a middle-aged man with an upbeat attitude, and Rin, a classy intelligent woman, announced them, Kai's voice echoing throughout the stands from their booth, and now. The genin from Kirigakure no Sato. K applause, first off. The ladies, and if they're anything like their cage, they'll be knockouts. Rin picked up as she started reading out names, first off. Alexis Tenjoin. Said girl walked out, receiving whistles from the men in the stands, oh. A little number from this beauty. Next up is, Haku Momochi. Haku walked out with her trademark smile on her face. Haku is looking good in that kimono. Last from this team is T Mizaki. T appeared in her dress, she's looking cute in that dress. A little bit of naughty girl next door to her. Next team is the only other one from Kiri. First up is Luna Terumi. Luna walked out with a small blush on her face that only served to make the boys go wild. Such a cutie with her little blush. Though that dress shows that she's got a body to contradict that. Lastly is this right? The crowd quieted down as they listened. Kai took a look. Well, it was accepted, so just go with it. Rin took over again. Sorry about that, people. How about we get our last girl out here? The crowd roared in response and were back to their previous enthusiasm. Please welcome the last girl of the evening, Akiza Senju. The crowd sat in a shocked silence as Akiza walked down the stairs. She was at least grateful that they weren't harassing her. It was when she reached the bottom of the stairs that somebody started whispering to his buddy about how beautiful she looked. Before Akiza knew it, she was assaulted with cheers and wolf whistles all the way until she walked out. Kai decided to comment, well, that was unexpected. The one thing that gets me thinking is, why is Akiza a Kiri ninja? Shouldn't she be in Konoha? Rin spoke next. Maybe Tsunade-sama knows? Being the formerly last Senju, she might know something. But I tell ya, those girls could turn me. Unfortunately, there's no time for that, because it's time for the Kiri boys. The crowd cheered as Kai took the microphone, or should we say boy? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one boy in the entire Kiri Genin roster. Please welcome a boy who I hope lives up to his name, Haomoto. Naruto strode out of the entrance as the crowd cheered, his looks and mysterious aura making more than a few girls swoon. His cape fluttered in the air as he glided down the stairs and walked along the path, stopping at the dais, not to bow, but to make a hat-tipping motion to the crowd, before he walked out. Rin commented, "Wow, I wish they made boys like that when I was younger." Hao is rocking the regal bad boy look. Kai ended the show with, "Well, we have seen some VIPs tonight, haven't we?" Rin followed up, "You bet we have. The Namikaze triplets, the granddaughter of the Sandame Tsuchikage, the children of the Yondaime Case Cage, and many others that look like they'll bring it just as hard." With Tsunade, she couldn't believe it, it was her. She had watched as Akiza had walked down the steps and the path. She couldn't believe that that was her daughter. She was radiant. She remembered when Akiza was just a little girl. She was so cute with her little skirt, her hair cut short, and her big brown eyes. Now, to see her all grown up, a body a model would kill for, natural beauty that makeup would only ruin, and a strong, brave look in her eyes. She couldn't help but be a little proud. Tsunade knew that she didn't deserve to feel that way. She didn't deserve to feel pride in Akiza's growth. Speaking of, why wasn't Akiza in the orphanage? Why was she a Kiri ninja? What the hell happened? Tsunade couldn't count how many times she almost went back to the orphanage to get Akiza back, but the pain was just too much. She had felt like she was betraying Dan when that night happened. She didn't even know who the guy was. She had thought that Akiza deserved more than a mother who couldn't let go of the past. It broke her heart to see Akiza's face when she told her that she would be back to get her soon. She could still remember what her baby had said to her. "Okay mama, hurry back. You promised to teach great-grandma Mito's lullaby to me." A few tears slid from Tsunade's eyes. She had hoped that Akiza would get adopted into a good home, but it looked like that didn't happen. She resolved herself to find out how Akiza became a Kiri ninja, and her first stop was Materumi. Sen no Yumi Hotel, ballroom. After everyone was off, the genin were ushered into a huge ballroom filled with tables, a stage with a band, a huge buffet table, and a large area in the center that was obviously for dancing. The teams had all sat down at their assigned tables when an announcer got on stage and spoke, "Welcome one and all to the 2nd Century Grand Tournament." All the assembled genin applauded until he spoke again. "You all have this time to party here in the ballroom. Your room keys are on your place cards, and when you feel like you've partied enough, simple head up. Your first test will be tomorrow at 10 o'clock sharp. Now everyone have fun." Many genin got up and started to mingle or head for the buffet OT dance floor as the band started to play. But the ones who were more observant, like Black Garden and Royal Heart, had noticed something protruding from one of their place cards. Naruto removed a piece of paper from his and read the message on it. "There are many small playing cards hidden around the ballroom and its surrounding rooms. The whole first floor is your area, but everywhere that isn't the ballroom or the elevators is forbidden. Your objective for this test is to find one of these cards and give it to the Chunin guard on your way out. This will count for your whole team. Bear in mind that they will be watching you. Should they spot you actively looking for a card, or being in a place you shouldn't, you will automatically fail this test." Clever. Yubel praised from her card. Naruto looked at his teammates as they read it. He looked over to Royal Heart and saw that they were having a small panic attack. None of them must be any good at sneaking. Naruto decided to help them. "Luna, could you use your power to give me a mental link to the others?" Luna nodded and closed her eyes. After a minute, Naruto felt he was connected to Haku, Alexis, and T. "Can you all hear me?" They jumped a bit before Haku answered, "Naruto. How are you doing this? I had Luna connect me to you. Do none of you have any skills for this?" It was T who answered, "No. We can sneak into places, but we suck at doing it when we are being watched." Naruto calmed her down and said, "All right, calm down. I'll get us our cards." Alexis entered the conversation. "How?" Naruto smirked behind his mask, "Leave it to me." With that, Naruto withdrew from their minds. He then said, "Well girls, shall we mingle?" The two nodded and got up. Royal Hearts followed their lead. Naruto walked over to the buffet table and pretended to be thinking on what he wanted while placing his hands in his pockets. In reality, he was using a storage seal on the inside of his pocket to retrieve 3 specific cards. Naruto walked over to the wall and leaned against it. He placed 2 cards against the wall. Summon, Labyrinth Wall. Equip, Magical Labyrinth. he said as the two cards melded into the wall. With them in place, he pressed one more to the wall and said to it, "I need you to find two playing cards somewhere on the first floor, can you do that for me?" The card answered back, "Of course sir." Naruto smiled as he said, "Summon, Wall Shadow." The ghoulish monster ghosted its way through the wall. Naruto only had to wait a few minutes before he felt three cards press into his hands. He discreetly took a look and saw Wall Shadow, an Ace of Hearts, and an Ace of Spades. "Thank you Wall Shadow," he said while taking his labyrinth cards out of the wall. He walked over to Alexis, who was still sitting at their team's table. "Care to dance?" She looked up at him and said, "Why not?" So the two walked out onto the floor. Naruto placed his hand on her hip, she placed one of hers on his shoulder, and they held their free hands. They started to dance. They had been dancing for a while when Naruto decided to talk. "You dance very well, did anyone teach you?" Alexis blushed and said, "Yes, my mother taught me." "Now, what about that card?" Naruto smirked as the song ended. He took her hand and kissed her knuckles. Alexis blushed more as he walked away, then she noticed that he had slipped something into her hand. She looked and saw an Ace of Hearts playing card. How? Naruto walked back to his team and they decided to leave, so they walked over to the exit and handed the guard their card. He seemed surprised as he let them pass. Naruto stayed at the elevator as the girls went up. "I'll wait for the others, I think it's time I tell them about me." He had told them his real first name, but not about his real past. Luna and Akiza looked at each other before waiting with him. Naruto waited a few minutes before Royal Hearts rounded the corner. They all walked into the elevator and closed it. Naruto spoke up, "I decided to tell you guys my past. I feel like I can trust you three." So he told them everything, from his early life, to meeting the girls, and even about his being the Supreme King. Akiza and Luna also shared their stories. The girls were stunned, and they stayed silent before Haku said, "My father tried to kill me and my Ka-san. He had seen me practicing my Hayaten and decided to get rid of us. He killed my Ka-san and was about to kill B, but I created an ice spike and stabbed him. I lived on the streets until Zabuza-sama found me." Alexis fidgeted a bit before she spoke. "My two-sama is the fire daimyo." Everyone besides T was surprised by this. "My grandparents were going to force me to marry some noble, so my parents sent me off to live with my Oji-san in Mizu no Kuni. But I got sidetracked and ended up joining the rebellion when I was 14. I trained to be a ninja every spare minute I had, and eventually became a genin." T was last. "My two-san was a powerful ninja. My mother was a civilian hiding from the bloodline purges. When I was 11, they were both killed. I wouldn't have survived if Mei hadn't arrived to save me. I still have trouble using my bloodline because it reminds me of my mother so much." The elevator opened as their sharing session ended, each of them with a small smile on their faces. The two teams went to their rooms for the night, sharing a new and deeper trust than they had before. The next morning, Sen no Yumi Beach. The remaining genin were waiting on the beach. Back in their usual gear, there were quite a few teams missing. It appeared that they didn't notice the test hidden in the ballroom. Naruto observed his surroundings. There were definitely some teams to watch out for. He sensed some teams that were well above genin level. There must have been some teams waiting for this occasion to get promoted. Naruto stood quietly next to his teammates before someone jumped on his back and placed their hands over his eyes, a familiar voice breathing into his ear. "Hello Hao-kun. Miss me?" Naruto smiled under his mask. "Hello Ino, yes I did miss you." Ino slipped off Naruto and pouted a bit as Sakura and Hinata walked up. Hinata spoke up first. "Hello Hao-kun. It's nice to see you again." Sakura just gave a smile with a wink. They started talking, introducing Team 8 to Team Royal Heart. They were hitting it off and talking among themselves until some ninja appeared in front of the group. 1. A large man with a bandana and scars all over his face spoke up. "Listen up. My name is Ibiki, and I will be explaining the next test. Listen carefully because I won't be repeating myself. There is an entire system of caves under this island, stretching miles away from the island. You will have to find two other teams to work with, and only one can be from your village. You will be escorted to a cave entrance and will have to find your way through to the exit on the other side of the island. Be warned, there are many nasty little critters in the caves, and the cave is said to use a dark energy to put anyone who enters under a genjutsu. If you keep your wits about you, you should make it out by the end of today." Any questions? A large number of genin raised their hands. Too bad. When you have two other teams, head over to the group of Chunin to your right, they'll take you to an entrance. Naruto and his friends looked at each other and nodded, they already had their group. They were about to head over until a voice Naruto recognized as the boy with the dog from Konoha reached their ears. Hey! Hinata, wait up! Then Menma's voice appeared, hold up guys. Everyone except Team Royal Hearts groaned as the two Konoha teams showed up. Menma and Kiba saw each other and growled. Hinata spoke up, if you're here to get our team to work with you, then don't. We've already got our two other teams. Menma and Kiba stopped their competition as they noticed the two Kiri teams. They noticed the 5 hot girls first before realizing Naruto was there. He waved at them and they growled at the fact that he was on a joined team with all the girls. Naruto said, let's get going before those two decide to blow a gasket. The girls all agreed and followed him. Menma and Kiba fumed at Hinata and all the others following the Black Knight, as Naruto had been called by others. Sasuke was conflicted, he was happy that Sakura and Ino weren't after him anymore, but he was miffed that Naruto seemed to have the attention of all those girls. Sasuke was an Uchiha, they should be flocking to him. Hang on to that dream, Sasuke. Sai was being Sai, and Nozomi and Natsumi were sweat-dropping at the boys' attitudes. But they couldn't help but feel a little jealous of the girls for getting Hau with them. Natsumi and Nozomi were thinking, damn it, we totally have a crush on him. A few minutes later, in the caves, the combined team of Black Garden, Royal Hearts, and Team 8 were walking through the caves. The genjutsu weren't stopping them much, with Hinata's eyes, and Naruto activating a dispel card every few minutes. They were easily able to spot the genjutsu. The caves weren't all that bad, they were pretty spacious, easily as big as the dome they entered and exited the walk-through. It was pretty dark though. Naruto had summoned a Hinotama soul to light the way. The little flame monster was floating in the middle of their group, lighting the cave for them. Akiza was using a combination of Doden and Mokuton chakra to sense trees on the surface, using the roots and solid rock to locate cave entrances and exits. She was working with Luna and Hinata to locate people and find the exit. They figured that it would be marked by a sign, or people waiting at the exit, and sure enough, Luna felt Mei's mind near a cave exit, as confirmed by Akiza and Hinata. Now they just had to find their way there. Meanwhile with Mei, no, Mei said with finality as she looked at the woman in front of her. What do you mean no? Tsunade said irritated. Mei was a bit pissed. Tsunade had cornered her near the cave exit and started asking questions about Akiza. Mei wasn't about to give up secrets about her genin just because Tsunade got all huffy. You don't get to leave her in an orphanage, pretend she never existed, then decide to keep tabs on her when she wants a life of her own. Tsunade grit her teeth. She could have had a life if she stayed in the orphanage. She could have been adopted and taken away from the death and horror of being a ninja. Mei was getting tired of being treated like a kidnapper, so she decided to give Tsunade a dose of reality. If you had checked up on her, then you would have known that it wasn't going to happen. Even if it did, you would leave her with the knowledge that her real mother didn't want her? You have no idea what happened to her, do you? Tsunade's eyes went wide. What? What happened to her? Did someone hurt her? Mei started walking away and said over her shoulder, you want answers? Then grow a pair and ask Akiza. Tsunade stood there and thought about what she'd heard. What had happened to her daughter? She left to think about things. It was clear that she wasn't going to find out anything from anyone but Akiza. She didn't think that she was ready to talk to Akiza yet. It was pathetic, but she couldn't help but dread it. Back in the caves, the 9 genin had been walking around the caves for a few hours, Akiza being the map. They suddenly heard someone running toward them from a side path. They turned and saw a girl with red hair that was spiked on one side and red, pupil-less eyes, wearing a purple shirt showing a bit of stomach, black shorts, knee-length ninja sandals, and black glasses. She didn't even stop and ran right past them while yelling, "Run!" They looked back and saw a giant swarm of spiders the size of their heads coming right at them. They all started running, and eventually they caught up with the new girl. Akiza started calling out directions, right up here. The new girl decided to follow them as they ran. Keep running. There's a ledge above us to the left coming up. They all jumped up and saw a dead end a few yards down. A dead end, the new girl yelled. They skidded to a stop. Akiza explained. The exit is just on the other side of this wall. I had to improvise. Naruto gave orders. Okay, anyone who can, start trying to bust through the wall. Everyone else, help me keep these things back. Sakura started using her naturally freakish strength combined with chakra to bust down the wall. Akiza helped by using vines to weaken it. T was using a scanning jutsu to find weak spots, and Hinata was hitting it with Jiyuken strikes. Naruto used his darkness and Hinotama spirit to ward off the spiders. Luna was forcing them back with her psychic power. Ino made a few hand signs and started spitting small fireballs. Alexis was using wind blades to slice spiders up. Hiku used ice to freeze some of them. And New Girl was pointing out ones that got too close. It was a few minutes later that the spiders started to overwhelm them. Luna yelled back, "Any luck with the wall?" "Almost," Sakura said as she wound up a huge punch and packed the rest of her chakra into it, Shanaru. She yelled as the wall finally gave way with the last punch. Hiku created a barrier of ice and Akiza made a thick bramble to slow the spiders as everyone wasted no time in booking it toward the light at the exit. They eventually made it out and collapsed onto the ground. They idly noticed that the exit was crowded with fans in the dim of sunset, and that the exit itself was a stylized ruin. They all got up and noticed that the cage were staring at them. When they all were standing, then Ibiki appeared and spoke to them. "Congratulations on being the first out of the caves, but it looks like you picked up a straggler." They all looked at the new girl. She seemed embarrassed at the attention. "Sorry, my team was killed by the spiders. Thanks for letting me tag along though. My name is Karen." Naruto smiled and said, "No problem." Karen really looked at him for the first time and sensed his chakra. Oh holy god. This chakra, it feels so dark, but warm and inviting. Plus he's not exactly bad looking. Ibiki interrupted, "I think you should know that since your team died, then you can't keep going in the exams. You can still stick around and watch, but you won't be able to participate. Now, all of you head back to the hotel, it's been a long day." Karen seemed to deflate at this as they walked back to the hotel. Naruto spoke to her on the way, "So, you're a censor?" Karen was surprised. "How did you know?" "It was a valuable skill. I'm one as well." "Really?" Karen asked. Censors were rare, and 2 in a generation was unheard of. "No problem. By the way, I'm sorry about your team." Karen shrugged, "I didn't really know them. I was only there because they needed a third person, but thanks." Naruto nodded as they arrived back at the hotel. They each went back to their own rooms and went to sleep. The next day, docks of Sen no Yumi. There were even fewer teams left than before. Whether they were killed in the caves or ran out of time, Naruto didn't know. Though from what he understood, this was the last test before the finals. The proctor for this test was a large man with an Iwa headband named Kitsuchi. "Welcome to the last trial. This one will be much more straightforward. There are tags placed all throughout the island. You and your teams will hunt them down and bring them back here. But there's a catch. There are only 12 tags, meaning that only 12 teams can advance to the finals." At this everyone stiffened. There were at least 3 times that many teams left. "You have until nightfall to bring a tag to the arena. Go," Kitsuchi said, not wasting any time as he and the other ninja left via Shunshin. All the teams scattered. Naruto, Akiza, and Luna jumped up into a tree to plan their approach. Normally they would help Royal Heart or Team 8, but the 3 teams had agreed to be on their own from here on. Naruto asked his 2 teammates, "So, how are we going to find a tag?" Luna took on a thinking pose. "There must be a hint somewhere. This island is huge. They can't expect us to find one small tag without one clue." Akiza interrupted, "Guys, was that sign always there?" They looked at what she was pointing at, and saw that there was a new sign on the dock. It was a board nailed to a post with a picture of a sealed tag on it. The tag even had the kanji for exam on it, and an arrow pointing down into the water. "It can't be that easy," Naruto said. Akiza shrugged. "Hiding in plain sight?" They went down and examined it. Luna spoke up next, "Might as well. I'll go down and look." "Are you sure? You'll have to strip," Naruto asked. Luna blushed madly and said, "I'm still the only one who can breathe underwater." She then started stripping down until she was standing in her white bra and panties. She then jumped into the water before anyone saw her. As soon as Luna was down in the water, she used her power to catch some air and bring an air bubble down to her, which she then placed on her head. She took a few breaths and swam down. She started looking around for a tag somewhere. She looked under rocks, around the dock, and finally under the dock. She didn't see a seal, but she did see a cave mouth in the rock up against the island. Luna swam through until she came up on an air pocket. She swam up as her air bubble popped. She found a small path leading further into the cave. Well, only one way to go. Luna got out of the water and walked down the path. She noticed a glint in the air and stopped just short of tripping a wire right in front of her nose. Luna released a breath as she looked farther down the path and saw quite a few more wires. A cream-colored glow came around her as she lifted herself into the air and floated down the path, weaving in and out of the wires, careful not to trip any of them. She let herself down and kept walking. Eventually, she entered a room with a pit in the center, taking up most of the floor, except a small ledge on the side of the wall. Luna first noticed the platform at the other end, and the tag on the wall. Down in the pit were countless snakes. Luna tried to lift herself up, but she couldn't. She had heard of seals that could make chakra useless. Akiza had gone into one recently, so Luna skirted out onto the ledge and shimmied down. After a few minutes of careful moving, Luna made it to the platform and took the tag. Well, that's done. Now to get back to Naruto-kun and Akiza. Luna pulled herself out of the water to see Naruto standing next to a large pile of knocked-out genin. Naruto saw her look. They showed up a while after you went into the water. They had only just thought of the sign. Akiza then appeared holding a dry set of underwear, which she took to Luna. Naruto turned his back and created a wall of darkness to give Luna some privacy while she changed and put her clothes back on. After she was done, Naruto said, "Alright, let's head for the arena." Arena. Ninja World Tournament stage from Ninja Storm Revolutions. Look up the game's stages. Team Black Garden had just arrived at the arena to see that the fans were cheering them on and the cages were sitting in their booth watching them. Kitsuchi stood in the center of the arena with a table for the tags. Well, you three are something else. Place your tag here and wait for the other teams to show up. Sunset. Arena. All 12 teams had arrived. All the Konoha teams, Royal Hearts, Gaara and his team, a Kumo team, an Iwa team, a Sound team, and a Nadeshiko team. Kitsuchi decided to get the show on the road. Alright, now that everyone is here, the finals will take place back here 1 month from now. There are boats at the docks waiting to take you back to your villages. If you're not here on time, then you'll automatically forfeit, no exceptions. Does everyone understand? He received nods from all the assembled genin. Then get back to your boats. When your cage arrive, then you head out. In the cage booth, you have some impressive genin there, Mizukage, Onoki said as he stroked his beard. Rasa took on a thinking pose, especially the armored one. I'm more interested in the Senju girl, I said with a curious stare at the Mizukage. Minato leaned in. Yes, exactly. How did you get a Senju to join Kiri, and if what my children and wife said is true, one with Mokuton? At this, all the other cage's eyes went wide, but none more so than the blonde Sanin sitting a few yards away. What? She has Mokuton. Minato turned to look at Tsunade. Yes, by the way, do you know anything about her, Tsunade? Everyone looked at the slug princess as she flinched before righting herself. No. Nothing. Mei gave her a look before speaking. You know I can't give away information on my genin. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to get to my boat. Later, boys. A few hours later, Naruto was talking to Yubel as the boat rocked from side to side. So, what are we going to do for my training? You're going to be training with me and the furball in the spirit world. Your friends too if they want. Really? How can they come? Also, how can we train out bodies there? Maybe you weren't listening. In the spirit world, your entire bodies will be going as well. How is that possible? In the black case is a spell card that can transport you and anyone with you to the spirit world. Why can Haku, Alexis, and T come? They caught the eye of a few monsters. Now go ask them. Naruto left his room and went to find the girls. They were in another of Mei's secret lessons. He still got a chill whenever he thought about them. Anyway, he saw that they were just leaving when he went up to them and said, "Hey guys. Yubel said we can go to the spirit world for training. Even us?" Haku asked. Naruto nodded and explained how they would get there and why they could come. They had all agreed and they found themselves on the dock of the ship as Naruto activated the card. They had agreed to come back a week before the finals to train with their sensei and prepare. Zabuza was talking to them as Naruto charged the card. Alright, you be safe. As much as I hate to admit it, you kids have grown on me. Ringo spoke next. He means he hopes you be careful and come back strong. I want to fight you kids when you get back. Mai was last. What they said. Oh, and Naruto tilde. Try not to ravish the girls with your beastly urges. Naruto blushed as he activated the card, spell, Spirit World Portal. It was only after they started disappearing that what Mei said registered in Zabuza's mind. Wait, I changed my mind. Haku can't go. No.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.